no fear to give. I feel but I can't forgive. I go all in this time, yeah, I won't regret. I'll pick the best on trip, they don't understand. I play to win, yeah, I play to win, I play to win. Yeah, I play to win, I play to win. Oh, play to win, I play to win. Yeah, I play to win, I play to win.
Welcome to the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast. I'm John McGlynn. You can find me on the Twitter machine at JohnMcGlynn75. Joining me today is Adam Seslowsky.
Very funny. Very funny. You bring me on. You screw up my name. I mean, join the club, right? Our friend Matty Kiwoom, same damn thing, right? I might just actually legally change it so people say my name wrong. They say it actually right.
Oh, that's great. When I heard that, it was absolutely hilarious. That's fantastic.
Well, you know, he's going to be contacted by my attorney, so it's no big deal. No big deal.
Alan Seslowsky, we're going to talk to him about his work life outside of fantasy football, his hobbies outside of his grind, some questions about the pros and cons of the settings of in-person and online leagues. We'll read through some NFL news and rumors. We'll talk about some trades that went down in my Mighty McGlynn fantasy home leagues. And then we'll evaluate a team at the end of the show to see if it's a rebuild or remodel, and some suggestions to get it back how to get it back to where we want it to go. So,
hey guys, Nick.
That sounds. What's it called? That's. Oh, sorry.
I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. Hey, yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
Herms NFL made that song for me. So if any of you guys out there looking to get a song made up, I got to turn it into videos soon. But I absolutely love that song.
Johnny, he threw like a nice 90s vibe on there. You know, like 90s, nothing better than 90s hip hop. I mean, that's what I'm feeling right there.
That's in our wheelhouse, man. We're the same age. That's what we listen to. That's how we grew up with. Yeah, absolutely.
I hate to sound old manish, but 90s hip hop is the gold standard, right?
It is the best of the best ever made.
All right.
So first of all, tell me about yourself, where the Twitter machine can find you, what you do in the fantasy football world that makes people want to follow you, all that kind of stuff.
First of all, I encourage people not to follow me. I encourage them to block me. But if you are so inclined, at Alan Seslowsky, I put all of my content over there, put some thoughts out there. I work for RotoWire RotoWire Fantasy Sports full-time. If you're not familiar with RotoWire, they've been around since 1997, the gold standard of news and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, I'm there work for them full-time, John. As you know, I do all their video editing, YouTube thumbnail design, manage their social, and radio host for them. So that is at Alan Seslowsky, at RotoWire. But let's maybe give them a reason to follow me, because right now they don't know, you know, they're just like, it's just another dude on Twitter. So, but if you like snark, if you like interaction, and of course I'm always down to answer questions, talk with people, give my opinion, take your opinion, all that kind of good stuff.
I've been following you for a while now, and I actually love your stuff, you know, and I was kind of like, I was kind of one of those, sometimes you get like starstruck from people, you know, and it's like all the shows you're on, all the stuff you do. It's like, man, I want to ask him to be on my show. And sometimes you get a little bit like, I don't know, but I don't care. I just went, you know, I'm going fishing. I got you. This works out absolutely awesome.
Yeah, John, and what's it called? And I like the energy that you give out on social media too. And I think that's really important. Like, you know, people just think like, just because you're on social media that it's okay to be an a-hole, all that kind of stuff. I just think like if you're truly an a-hole, I encourage that. Then be an a-hole in social media. But if you're I could tell how genuine you are. I could tell how passionate you are about fantasy football. And most importantly, anytime you put out a tweet information, I'm always like shaking my head. I'm like, oh yeah, no, you're obviously a very sharp fantasy football player, and you're creative. So creative people attract creative people. So I am now a John McGlynn fan.
Thank you very much. I tell you, the experience. I hear a lot of people saying that like Twitter is, you know, this terrible toxic place. I think if you're positive on there and just keep and stay positive, like I have a lot of like back and forth positive. I have a great time on Twitter. It's literally, I was kind of afraid to make the jump from Facebook to Twitter because, you know, I didn't really understood, but now I don't even use Facebook anymore. It's like one of those things I check people's for birthdays and stuff like that, but that's the only reason I still have it. But other than that, yeah, this Twitter experience now is just, I love it. Every day I'm on here and I'm like, hey, what's going on? It's like, it's like having you have your friends that you have on Twitter, on Facebook, you grew up with and stuff like that, and then you have like your new neighbors when you move in a new neighborhood kind of thing on Twitter. It's like this is like a whole new world of like awesome people, So
you said it right, Johnny. Is that can you imagine how many birthdays you'd forget without Facebook, though? I mean, thank God. I mean, it's that is the reason I've kept some friendships, right? It's like, oh wait, it's so funny. I look back, I see the person's birthday, and there's a few people that you text on their birthday, and you realize the only text you've had back and forth with them was last year's birthday when you said happy birthday, and they said it to you. So yes, and by the way, Facebook right now underrated. If you want to get your fantasy football content out there, because nobody's on Facebook anymore, the Facebook Reels, not Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels. If you do short videos, you can get, videos that were getting, like 5 or 10,000 views on some of the other social media platforms, 30, 40, 50,000 views. So if you view hunt, which again, who doesn't like views on their social media, I highly recommend getting back into Facebook, since it's so uncool now that it's cool again.
Right. Absolutely. So tell me about a day in the life outside of the Twitter machine for you, for the handsome and talented Alan Seslowsky. What is like family, pets, all that kind of stuff? Like what's going on in your personal life? I feel like we get a little bit too, encapsulated in what you're doing on Twitter. Nobody really talks about, like, what do you do? Like, man, just chilling out, having a good time. Like, what's going on in your life outside of this grind we call it fantasy football?
Yeah, I'm a full-time sex worker. No, just kidding. I wish, right? Not many people lining up for bald Jewish men from Florida right now.
Yeah, I'm Irish. So I wouldn't work too well in the Irish industry either.
I always say, if I was on like Grindr or something, I'd be like Burt Reynolds or Christian Bale or something. But anyway, we digress. This podcast is falling apart quickly. So other than working full time in fantasy, I referee high school basketball, varsity boys and girls basketball. So I've always loved playing basketball. I was okay, it wasn't great, but there comes a point, we both admitted on live air that we're 47 years old. There comes a point where you just can't play anymore. And, I made the transition over to officiating. So I love being around basketball. So I do AAU, officiate in the summertime. And in season, I do, the regular high school season. So that's my other passion outside of fantasy football. Of course, no children. I know you have like a whole litter of children. I mean, you started naming names. I said, oh my God, when's this list going to end? There's like 17 children. I mean, you're unbelievable. You have very strong seed in there, Johnny. But no children for me, no pets for me, just myself and my wife here, lifelong New Yorkers. And we did the New York thing. We moved to Florida before the age of 70, obviously. We moved down here about 10 years ago.
We've been to like 43 states already. Me and my family on these like family trips we do all the time. We throw all the kids in the car, go see stuff. One of our trips was my daughter had a lacrosse tournament in Upper Michigan.
How old? What age for lacrosse?
She is she's got a full scholarship for lacrosse to St. Ambrose University. So she's a senior in high school right now. She's 17. She'll be 18. She's the real deal soon. So. Yeah, she broke her back in a boating accident and had to come back full recovery from all this. All the back surgery. They had to put a fusion plate in there, the whole deal like that. She came back, worked her ass off through physical therapy, got back on the field, came back, and still got herself to get that good to get a full scholarship to college post injury. So She lost out on tons and tons of like recruiting stuff like that because of the whole time her sophomore and junior year she was like still coming back from their surgery, but senior year she went out there, killed it, went to St. Ambrose, had a visit, and they hooked her up for scholarship. So wow,
she must be some player there. I was actually in the referee circle. They're looking for lacrosse referees. They pay well. But you have to. I always believe, just like fantasy football, Johnny, you have to love it, right?
Yes.
Like you can't, if somebody's just in. I could always tell. We're talking about like being genuine, all that kind of stuff. Can't you always tell the people that are just viewing like hunting, which again, by the way, nothing wrong with that if you want to do, but it's like you could always tell there's a little something off with the content. Like they haven't played in leagues a lot, or maybe they're just in their home league. But when you start getting into 5, 10, 15, 25 dynasty leagues or redraft, you could always tell someone that's in the trenches. So being genuine and circling back to your daughter there, man, that is just unbelievable. Which is, by the way, is a great story, because there's so many times that we always think that we're down and out in a situation and we come back stronger. So I love hearing that. It's actually very inspirational.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and about loving this stuff, like I started watching football before I started playing. I started playing in 4th grade, played through high school, played in college for a little bit. Like I coach. I played football my whole life. I watched football my whole life. I coached my kids' teams. I still go to events with them now. Like, I love this game. There's nothing that will turn me off from like watching football or joining fan. I'm in 19 leagues now. I absolutely love it. I love being a commissioner. I actually run these dynasty. We'll talk about them later, but the Mighty McGlynn dynasty home leagues. But this is I couldn't wait to like. Now my kid's a little bit older. I finally have time to do this stuff, but I absolutely love the game of football. And fantasy football is just an extension of, again, like I can't go with my buddies and play a turkey bowl on Thanksgiving anymore. Those days are well gone behind me. But being able to like watch, my kids play with their friends and like be the official quarterback and nobody can touch me and I can't run because I can't run anyway, that kind of stuff, it actually works out great. So
we called it official quarterback too. Some people call it universal quarterback. Some people call it all-time quarterback. And for those who are wondering what we're talking about was if you had like 7 people playing like a game of pickup football, one person would be the quarterback for both teams, right? I mean, that was never me, but you must have a good arm. And by the way, you said you were coaching. Did you yell at the referees? Because now I'm very sensitive to that. Very sensitive.
You can't, at being a head coach, I don't think you can not have some pretty steamed conversations with referees once in a while. So no, I get it. It's the hardest thing in the world is being a referee because you got to be fair. You got to be honest. You have to really kind of, tell the truth, that kind of stuff. You have to be fair but you can't have like, oh, this is my friend's nephew's team, because you coach where you live. So you obviously know people and know people's kids that play these sports. So it's got to be tough being referee. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, well, the thing with officiating and also with being a commissioner, right, is, well, a commissioner is a little different because you own a team in the league usually, but with being a referee or being an official in a sport, you're the only person, you and your referee partner, who don't care about the outcome. It's like people don't realize that referees really don't care about the outcome. The only thing referees care about is getting it right. And now, as a commissioner, there takes a certain type of commissioner to sometimes almost put their team, in fantasy football I'm talking about, to put their team to the side and make a ruling on what's best for the league. I almost, a lot of times when I'm making rulings or rule adjustments, do things that don't favor my team. If we're making like a rule change, for example, I make sure that rule change is like the furthest thing than going to help my team. Being impartial is so crucial to the longevity of your fantasy football league.
Yes, voting on everything is like the ultimate everything. I don't want to just push things down people's throat. Everybody's got to like what's going on and absorb what happened to the league also when you do vote on things like that. So, yep.
Yeah.
What's your favorite hobbies before you got into this fantasy football kind of stuff? What did you do before like fantasy football? I mean, I've been playing since like 1995, so
right.
Like it's been a while for you probably too. But what was your hobbies before you got into this fantasy football stuff?
What's funny is that I had to be dragged into fantasy sports. Like, I resisted it for so long. I think the first year I played was 2005. I played fantasy basketball, fantasy football like immediately after in 2006. And I just remember, and I'll answer your question, that like you would do the mock drafts online, right? You'd go into like the ESPN rooms, or they had a few sites where you sign up for mock drafts, and like, now there's best ball, you could do it. So I'd be sitting in my cubicle just figuring out ways to like, in the off season to play fantasy football. But before I played fantasy, like I said, I was a big, video game guy. I loved playing like Nintendo, like Tecmo Bowl, things like that, and all the video games around it. I always played sports and, but I was into like NCAA pools. Were you the guy that ran your pool? Because you're a commissioner. Were you a guy in middle school that ran your, or in high school that ran your tournament pool?
I was not the guy. I run a lot of pools and stuff now that are for fun, but it's almost like, you had that personality of being, it's almost like a leadership quality to run these things, like you're a natural born leader. You do stuff like that. So we did run a lot of like, everybody took a turn running different things for different sports, but I was in the rotation anyway. I didn't run them all.
Yeah, the other thing that I used to do in another lifetime was I used to DJ at nightclubs, right? Like from my early 20s to, I would say, maybe like late 20s, early 30s. I'm going back to like the whole like rave scene in 1997, 98. So, I still have my turntable set up, 10,000 vinyl records on my wall. But I was heavy into the whole like DJing all around clubs around New York and city. So, but that's like it feels like 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've been young like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
You? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think my hobbies, literally, I think just fantasy football. Like as far as that goes, I still, it's kind of weird. I guess people don't understand, but I still hang around with probably 15, 17 kids that I've known since kindergarten, like that I grew up with neighborhood. They're all in my fantasy football leagues. Not all of them, but most of them are. We still have class reunions where we have 25, 20, 28 people showing up for our class reunions this is from kindergarten through 8th grade, like grammar school stuff. Like we still talk to each other. We still hang out. These are the same kids I played wiffle ball with, and we played lob league with, and we played fast pitch with, and basketball and 16-inch softball. And we've been together our entire lives, just kind of getting together a couple times a year. People are like, that's so weird. No, I don't know. Nobody hangs out with their friends anymore. Like, that's the majority of who I still hang out with now is guys I've known since I've been 7 or 8 years old. It's and the same with my older brother Andy, and the same with my younger brother Peter, and then all of us kind of have friends through like different kind of commingling with football and baseball and partying, going to visit them at college. We've all become friends of friends of friends, and it's like a little kind of like our own little world of our friendships. So
yeah, what happens is you form these connections, and then you have these nostalgic memories, and then they perpetuate new memories. So yeah, no, I love it. I have people that I've known forever like that too. Not as large as the group you have. It just seems like as we get older, most people that circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But I envy that you have this group of 15, 17 people that have all stayed connected. I think that shows a lot of healthy mentality right there.
Yeah, life gets better and better, but now they're all starting to have kids now, and all my kids are grown. So they're always going out and doing stuff. We try to squeeze in a vacation once in a while, or squeeze in like some party stuff.
It's over, John. It's over.
Now it's like, now for us, it's over. If anything, I go to birthday parties and stuff more, like kids' birthday parties more than weddings and stuff nowadays. So
we all know kids' birthday parties are for the adults.
Yeah, keg of beer. Yeah, absolutely. So what's your favorite food when you're glued to the TV watching Red Zone on Sunday afternoons?
Oh man, I mean it's so funny, right? Because everyone now, it's like the assumption is you're watching Red Zone. I remember 8-10 years ago, it was like, what, you watch Red Zone? That sucked. It's only like the highlights. I'm like, listen, Red Zone is for gamblers and for fantasy players. But foods, man, I still love wings. I still love like an Italian sub or something like that. It just brings me back to a feeling of like carefree. I mean, it's you can't eat like completely healthy food, right? When you're watching football. I mean, you can make healthier choices, which we have to do now as we age. But I'm still a wing, still a sub guy. Just like like salami and pepperoni and pickles and olives and just there's nothing like it. I mean, is there any other way? Can you sit there and eat like tofu while you're watching? It's just not possible.
I'm in almost nothing besides home leagues, so I generally don't like sit in my front room watching TV. Like I'm always in somebody's garage or a lot of bars out here because I live in the suburbs, not the actual city. But it's dollar bottles. It's half price appetizers and 16-inch pizzas for like $8. Like literally, I can go out and spend $35 and drink 18 beers and chicken wings and stuff like that. It's absolutely awesome out here, man. Like
are you in a bar where there's like multiple TVs and things like that? So I find that I panic when that happens. I'm just like, I don't know where to focus. So I try to zero in on Red Zone. Or because it just becomes so overwhelming. Now, I do it too. Like on the main screen, I have Red Zone. On the laptop, I'll have, the Jets. That's the team I like, or whatever game I have a bet on or something. And then on the phone, I'm scrolling through Twitter. It's like, it's total chaos for those 1:00 games, which I love, by the way. It's organized chaos.
Yeah, no, it's great being, but I focus on the Red Zone at the bar. And then when Red Zone's kind of boring, I'll look at this, but I don't like the time difference between Red Zone and the game sometimes. That's the only thing that kind of throws me off, but.
Do you remember growing up, like there was literally a game on CBS, a game on like Fox or whatever the other, station was at the time. You're just laboring over commercials. And by the way, you didn't know any better, so it was great. But it's just like the minute I remember the first time like a friend of mine got Red Zone and I was just like, I'm coming over every freaking week when it was just on DirecTV only. Yeah. And now, obviously it's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be a better experience. I've already purchased it, so I'm going to be locked and loaded for that.
You did. Okay.
You got $100 off. That's why if you're an early purchaser, you got $100 off Sunday Ticket.
I don't subscribe to Sunday Ticket. I just do the YouTube thing. I mean, the Red Zone thing. And it comes with Comcast for like, I think it's like $9.99 a year or something like that for Red Zone. So
you haven't cut the cord yet?
No, I haven't.
You're a boomer.
Okay, this is the problem. I have my wife and kids like cable. Yeah. So what they'll do is they'll grab their remote control and they'll go on to Comcast and then they'll go right to Netflix. I'm like, you understand I'm paying $270 a month for you to go on Netflix. Like, this is the stupidest thing known to man, but my wife wants to watch her shows that are only, that are on 2, 5, 7, things like that once in a while. We're watching news and she wakes up in the morning and I'm like,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Well, nowadays, you can get listen, this is not supposed to be a commercial for YouTube TV, but you can get all those things, live television and unlimited DVR. Like I'm doing a commercial for YouTube. I'm a shill now. Anyway, we'll talk offline. I'll help you cut down that cable bill.
Thank you very much. All right, let's jump into some commissioner stuff here. So I shared with you the bylaws of what I call the newest Mighty McGlynn Dynasty Home Leagues this one's called the Babies and Boomers League, which I started. Have you looked into the manifesto that is the rule book that is laid out for all to enjoy?
Yeah, I have it here. So what article do you want me to look at?
Oh, I don't. I just want to see, are you familiar with, do you guys have articles like that for your leagues, where everything's all set and
okay. Let me start with those who have not seen this manifesto, which is the right word for it. This is an amazing document that should be right next to the Declaration of Independence in some fantasy football Hall of Fame. Our bylaws are pretty detailed. This thing makes mine look like Cliff Notes. Okay. There's no stone left unturned here. There's no rule. There's no loophole. Yes. So I read through it and I already saved as copied so I can implement some of this stuff. This is so well thought out. I'm sure, I don't know if you created this from scratch or used a template and then added to it, but this is how serious fantasy football should be played.
This is 20 years of learning from other leagues and then jumping to my own leagues and becoming commissioner and starting and then adding and adding and adding and adding. So this is 25 years experience in fantasy football, getting to this point where I've through pain and suffering on my part and through pain and suffering on other people's part, through that kind of learning from experiences, putting all this stuff together. And everybody's got to agree with that before we move on with any other kind of scoring or anything like that going on in leagues when we start any other league. I do these Mighty McGlynn Dynasty Home Leagues, as I call them. They're a series of in-person Dynasty Home Leagues I put together by harvesting content creators, podcasters, writers, and analysts from the Chicagoland area. It consists of guys like Pat Fitzmaurice, Nick Scripp, Nate Powell, Adam Hutchinson, Scott Sidlow, Kyle August, Steven Johnson, Ryan Williams. It's all guys that it's not like my grandma and my aunt who have no idea what's going on. It's all people that are really they're pretty serious on in the Twitter machine in the fantasy football universe. So all my competition is absolutely it's really hard to get in these leagues, to get seriously good in these leagues, because you can't pull the wool over nobody's eyes. I'm not trading DJ Moore for a kicker or something like that. That's not happening. It's competition. It's great competition. We have league meetings every year. I have a draft lottery for the first 6 picks. I have a lotto machine. All this stuff going together. So all these I set up. I get 16 meetings a year with all these people from all these different leagues, and this is the stuff that I absolutely enjoy being a commissioner, because I do all this stuff in home leagues, and whoever wins the league gets to pick the draft location. So you have it in your backyard. We're having a pool party this year at somebody's house for the rookie draft. It's absolutely awesome being the commissioner of these leagues because everybody takes them so seriously. It's
2 observations here. One, you are someone who brings people together, which, again, that same energy I get from you on social media. So it's very apparent this is who you are, and I appreciate that. In a world where people focus on people who split us apart, someone who brings people together, salute you. And the other thing, it was one of the rules I wanted to ask you about. Oh, you should do? You should take a read-only copy of this, pin it to your Twitter so other people can use your rules, right? I mean, I don't want to, tell you what to do with your Twitter account, but I think that people would benefit from at least using this and then cutting down what you don't think. And then the third observation is what you talked about, bringing in good players in order, iron sharpens iron. I couldn't be more for this. I have a buddy of mine who always likes to play against soft competition because he's like, oh, then I win the money. I'm like, okay, so you win your $700. That's great if it's a $100 league with 70% first split, whatever it is. But if you want to get better at fantasy football, the only way to do it is to make all these egregious mistakes that we all made. I drafted Peyton Manning in the first round when I first started and had no running backs and, all these things that we learned through fantasy football. It's like when I used to be a teacher, John, I would play basketball against 5th graders, and I was like Shaquille O'Neal, right? I wasn't getting better, right? I was getting worse. So I love that you mentioned it's okay to have a home league, but find really good fantasy players and put a little something on the line that means something. If it's $50, it's $25. If it's whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If it's $100, that is how you get better and find the edges in fantasy football.
Yeah, I've learned. You win against your brothers and your friends and stuff like that younger on. Then you start getting a better competition, and then you realize, man, I don't know. I thought I was good. I have no idea that I learned how to trade from this guy, and I learned how to use a waiver wire from that guy, and I learned this and that. And the best part of these leagues is that you win these rings when you win these leagues. So I buy out of my own pocket for being a commissioner. I buy these rings for whoever they're custom.
Great.
You can get
that is. You know, it's funny they say, John, that fantasy football players are the only people that'll spend $100 to make 50. We buy a subscription to a website, a magazine, a ring for our league. We spend all this money just to make 50. We don't. It's not about profit at this level. Of course, when you're playing, say like in an NFFC or an FFPC high stakes league, you put through. You want to win. You want to profit. But for these leagues, it's about igniting those passions and living life and doing the things that we talked about in the beginning of the pod.
What's your thoughts on divisions and like things like that because we have fun interactions with our divisions. Like we have a divisional draft every year. Like if the top four, we have 4 divisions with 3 players per division, and the top 4 divisions winners get to pick their own competition next year. So it's a terrible thing to get picked number 1 in these division draft. That means your team sucks. So it's something like that kind of rubbing in. And we have I have 5. I take the time and I go through every schedule from every one of my leagues, and I make them so you play. We have a divisional playoff.
Right, you play each other twice. I read that part of your thing where you're picking, like you're basically playing your division in certain weeks, and 2 weeks in the beginning and 2 weeks at the end, right? That's what you have.
So yep. I have to get a Google sheet and remake the entire schedule. So you're playing. It's a divisional play all week 1. So like the original 13 game schedule, I still had together like it was before. But then I have week 1 where you play all your division opponents in week 1, and the high scorer gets a win, the middle scorer gets a tie, and the low scorer gets a loss. So that's a 5th game. It's also a tiebreaker when it comes to playoff matchups. So that's important also. And then I make the schedule so weeks 2 to 4 it's division games, and then 12 to 14 is also division games, and you play everybody else in the whole league one time throughout the season. So it's kind of hard manipulating all those schedules for every year, but it works awesome for me, and the competition is great. It's more things to get together at the end of the year when it's a tie week and you're playing the last division opponent to get in the playoffs. It's things like that just make it worth it for all the time I put in for them. So
yeah. So you asked my thought about divisions. Like I normally was like, divisions, I don't really need it. But when I read through your bylaws and your rules, I was like, okay, this is how it's done correctly. And anyone that wants to get the specifics or didn't fully grasp what John was talking about, hopefully you will post this manifesto at least once, because I know, like I said, a lot of people will benefit from it. If you're willing to put in all that work, which again is like amazing, then this system that you've put together does increase the utility of fantasy football. 1, it's fair. 2, it's fun. And 3, it creates engagement, which is going to be good for the long-term health of the league, right? Anything that makes people more interested, because like you said, all of us have 10, 20, in my case, I'm embarrassed to say 41 leagues. It's a sickness, I know. But this is going to create, like if this league was, I would be like, oh, I'm really interested to see what happens in this league. And that is good for the long-term health. If it's just a vanilla cookie cutter league, which is great, by the way, and fully automated, someone might be less inclined to check in on that league as our volume, our portfolio of leagues grows. So love that you're willing to do the work. It does make you a little crazy, just to let you know. Does not, the good kind of crazy. But if you could do it how you're describing, wow, that's a big thumbs up.
What's your thoughts on like having a league medium when you already have rules kind of to determine, tiebreakers, things like that? Like, is it more important to have a league medium? Some people are like, you have to have a league medium. You have to have a league medium. But in my home leagues, I have it set up where league medium is kind of useless because there's already so many tiebreakers and things like that. But like, how do you feel about having a league medium? Is it something that you feel is necessary?
Yeah, so just so everyone understands what we're talking about, John, is that system of scoring is award. So you play head to head. John and I play our week 1 matchup, and John kicks my ass, right? Sorry, John just beats me, right? He beats me 108 to 107, but. So I get a loss, but I've scored more than everyone else in the damn league this week. Everyone had 95, 98, right? Or whatever your scoring system is. But it awards, in the system John's talking about, the top 6 scores in the whole league an extra win. So in this specific case, I would be 1-1. Because there's nothing more annoying, John, than having the second highest score in your fantasy football league and you're 0-1 for the week, or you get that loss. So it does reward the better teams, at least it takes a little away schedule variance, right? I remember there was a league one year, John, where I had the third most points in the league, but I had 3 wins. I just ran against a buzzsaw every week. So I was pissed off, right? I know that playing fantasy football for like decades, all that evens out. So I think that system, the league medium system, is good because it balances out, it elevates the bigger teams. But what you said, with all the nuances that you've put in, you've already accounted for that. Because it's just, it seems like, and maybe it's just amplified because when it happens to you, it always seems worse, that I just hate having that second or third highest score and getting a loss. But either way, I mean, as long as the league agrees to it, I think there is merit to it, but you've accounted for it.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was no league medium. I think it's kind of a newer thing, a league medium, like the last couple of years or so. But I remember I was the league's highest score, and I was 0-7 one year. And I'm like, this is such bullshit. There's got to be a way to fix this.
That would balance it.
Yeah, so at that point in time, I would have been 7-7 in my league. Or let's say, I would have had the most points every week. Besides that, I would have beat everybody else. I would have been 7-7 instead of 0-7. So
another way to counter is this is what we do in one of our leagues. Is that so traditionally, to say like a non-division, just a typical 12-team league where the top 6 teams get in and the bottom 6 teams are not in the playoffs. What we do is we allow the top 5 teams in the playoffs. And the 6th team, John, is the team with the highest number of points for, regardless of their record. So sometimes, if the 10th seed has more points than the 6th seed, that guy replaces that person with the 6th. So the top 5 get in. That's just another way to do the league median thing, So you could do it either way. It sounds like in your bylaws you account for all that with the division winners, but I just think that there's nothing more annoying than having a good fantasy season and just having bad win-loss luck. Or else, I mean, you can't eliminate head-to-head in fantasy football, or else you have like a roto baseball league, right, where it's points only. And although that's more, quote, fair, it's not as fun.
Boring, yeah. So ours are set up where the 4 division winners make it, and then the other 2 teams in the wild cards are both the teams with the 2 highest point scores. So I actually have the 6 best teams in the league every year. It's kind of I think it's more fair that way to have the 2 highest point score, because you may have the best. You may be the second best team in the entire league, but you didn't win your division because your division winner was 1 game ahead of you, or he beat you head to head, kind of thing like that. So now you have the most points. So the 2 wild cards are the highest point score. I like it that way. And
your way resembles more of what the real NFL is.
Yes. So yeah, absolutely. Do you play a lot of best ball? Do you think there's a need for a commissioner in a best ball league?
Yes. So I saw that you would ask me that question, and I thought this is very interesting. It's the role of the commissioner is different in best ball, right? It's I compare commissioning a lot like I do to basketball refereeing. I always tell people that want to get into like refereeing, or in your case, I love that you're doing like a commissioner focused podcast. Like this is, to me, this is an innovative podcast in the space. But you're not, anyone in refereeing can call a foul. I could teach you to call a foul in 2 seconds. You watch sports. You know what a foul looks like, right? You see a foul, you call a foul. You see a travel, you call a travel. The main objective of a referee or a commissioner is to manage the league, settle disputes, be the voice of reason, know when to put votes up, know when to make executive decisions. So even in best ball, though there's less maintenance, there's still league decisions that need to be made. Most people don't like a lot of choices. They think they like choices, but I had someone recently in a league, a best ball league specifically, says, how much do you want to play for? And they put up 6 choices, $5, $10. I said, I DM'd the guy. I said, put 2 choices. Put $10, $20. That's it. You put 6 choices in front of people, people get upset. They don't know what to do, right? So to answer your question directly, yes, there is absolutely a need for a commissioner in best ball. It's just the role is more make sure everyone's happy, make sure everyone's engaged. There's not as much to do during the season. Johnny, you're on mute.
I've always been that guy who like kind of I don't play any best ball leagues at all. I think it's a
0.
I got in one. It was so boring. I'm like, this is you just draft. You might as well just do mock drafts, as far as I'm concerned. At the end of the year, people are in 75 best ball leagues. Like, look, I won my best ball league. Like, yeah, what happened to the other 74 leagues you're in that you didn't, you're not accounting for, right? Exactly.
I'll tell you, John, you just said something very interesting there. You said about that it's boring. It's not meant to have the ups and downs, the excitement of set your lineup leagues. Do you remember like when we used to mock, like some asshole would pick Tim Tebow in the first round and then leave the draft and the mock draft was ruined. At least when someone's putting in $3, $5, $10, they have stake in the game, so they're going to stay for the draft. So what I think best ball's best utility is, it's not to win the $50 best ball league or get into some, basically throw your money away in the giant contest. It's a good way to understand ADP with people that have stake in the game.
Okay, that's good. I find myself the more and more, I don't do mock drafts anymore because I was doing tons of mock drafts. The problem was I found myself rat hole in the same players in every kind of like where I was at in every round. I'm like, all right, I take this guy here and this guy here and this guy here. And I kept doing it over and over again. I'm like, it's all I'm doing is just looking for the same player in almost every round. So I kind of got away from mock drafting right now. I use my own rankings. I look at other people's rankings. I don't do ADP. I feel ADP is kind of what we talked about earlier, where a lot of people join these mock drafts and they get in there and they do the same thing, and it messes up the ADP of players. So I don't really look at ADP too much. I'm like much more a fan of my favorite analyst rankings. I individual take out best running back, my favorite running back guy, my favorite wide receiver guy, my favorite quarterback guy, and I take like 5 or 6 and mesh them all together and kind of manipulate it for where I think things belong anyway. So it's and a lot of other factors like the player profile. They have tons of tools and stuff that I use to move players up and down in rankings and stuff, depending on how many catches or a lot of percentages and stuff. So a lot of thought goes into what my own rankings that I use to draft and for waiver wires and stuff like that also. So
yeah, no, and I think everything you said is right on there. But again, I just want to reiterate, I would encourage you to do best ball, just the cheap ones, not because it's like exciting during the season, but when someone gets something for free, they don't value it. But when like a mock draft or just think about someone that says, "Here, try this out, it's free," it just kind of sits there. But if you pay for something, if you pay a membership for even like Spotify or Apple Music, you're going to listen to it more. So if you have $3, they have $3 best balls on these sites, then you can get a sense of who you really like. It's not because winning $36 is like, going to change your life, but stake in the game. I always think it's important to have a little stake in the game. And that's why I would encourage you to maybe, play some best ball throughout the season instead of mocking.
What's your favorite league? Like and which league do you, out of all leagues you're in right now, which league do you like the most, and which league do you like just want to like do like kind of Sparta, like where you kick the guy down the hole, like get this one out of here? Like which is your favorite league and which is your least favorite league of all the leagues you play in?
Yeah, so like everybody else, I'll start with the bad leagues, right? I joined a lot of leagues when we were stuck at home during the lockdowns and stuff like that, and it was like Dynasty Startup Mania. So I joined a lot of leagues where they weren't even expensive leagues. They had like $40, $50, $25. And I have like a bunch of leagues where I'm still in. I have to go through setting lineups and, it's just very labor heavy. So those leagues, though I am in them and I am committed and I'm, for now, and maybe I'll find an alternate, a backup owner. But those leagues, though they're fun and the guys are great, it's just labor intensive for a small payoff. So that style of league that I joined during COVID and all that stuff, those would be my least favorite. My most favorite league, or the one that I find myself most engaged, is I started a league very similar to the bylaws that you use. It's a higher entry league. I think we $300 at Dynasty League, which is awesome because if you win, you get that big payout at the end. But the reason I like it, because John, you're in so many leagues, you know this. What is the number one reason why people fight in Dynasty Leagues or have bad feelings? It's that when a trade goes down that people think is unfair, and that you always hear this, I would have given more for that player, right? Like, but a lot of times you didn't even know the player was on the block. So this is what we do, and this is why this league is my favorite league, the one that I'm running, is we have a trade match rule, John. And let's say that so in one league, Patrick Mahomes was traded for Daniel Jones in a first, right? Ridiculous trade. I mean, in a super flex. Obviously, we know which side wins that trade. But in our league, everyone's got 24 hours to match that trade. And the fantasy owner of those two teams they can't change their side. They can't add like a second to Patrick Mahomes. But all the other owners now have 24 hours to match or beat the trade. And the players that have the original trade could choose to accept or not accept. And this way it ensures that the stars get traded for fair market value. So in that specific situation where Patrick Mahomes was traded for Daniel Jones in a first, someone came and said, hey, I'll give you, I forget who it was at the time. It might have been like Aaron Rodgers and 2 firsts. And then someone else said, I'll give you this wide receiver plus this quarterback. And then the guy actually ended up getting like Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr plus a first or something else at the time. This was multiple years ago. And he got a better deal. And people in the league couldn't say, hey, I didn't know Patrick Mahomes on the block. Hey, that's a BS offer. So it ensures that some people don't like it. They think it's like a little bit of training wheels, be like, hey, listen, you snooze, you lose. But it does protect against the stars getting traded for under market value.
As a guy who sends out about 40 trades a day in every league, you just described my worst nightmare, because there's no way. If I pull the wool over somebody's eye, like, kind of like, I guess whatever you want to call it, as far as that goes,
if you get a good deal, right?
I got a good deal. I don't want, somebody, especially when I think maybe even that guy might take a less of a trade because he likes the players in the next offer. They're not even worth as much, or as dynasty value wise is concerned. And it's like, man, that is, if I was to make a trade and everybody got to go against me, I think people would just trade like an extra 4th round pick on top of what I trade just to be a dick,
Well,
like
I should have added this. The original trader, so say it's me and you, we make that trade where you got me, I gave Patrick Mahomes, and so no matter who, you would have one more and final opportunity to come over the top of them.
All right.
So, but still, now you're going from paying, you were getting, $1.20 on the dollar. Now you're getting even money. So yes, if you're a grinder like you are, this is not a rule that you would like, but you know what I'm saying. It's just that this is the general to keep a league together. But listen, your opinion is shared by a few of my league members. So how about you? What's your favorite rule in your bylaw? What's the one where if someone said, hey, give me a new rule that I don't have, and even if it's one of the division rules that we can add to our league that's not a usual league that you just love. It's like a must-have John McGlynn signature rule that you want in all of your leagues.
I guess I used to have a thing where I couldn't put pup players on the IR, and that was kind of thing. Like I was kind of a stickler for that, because it's not IR, it's pup, like that kind of stuff. And people are like, well, and the holdout players, things like that. I guess now that you could put pup players on the IR, it's one of those things. It's like, I'll let them be on there. But I don't know why I was always stuck on that, like not having pup players on IR, and it seems so stupid, but it drove everybody absolutely nuts. So I had to change that kind of thing around. But now I've come around to it, kind of thing. But that's probably the only one I could that I had such a controversy for the last couple of years. So I guess it's my favorite rule now because I get so much slack over it. So
as long as everybody knows the rules in the beginning. But yeah, I could see what they're saying. Like, hey, pup is just a designation. They're basically on IR for 6 weeks, or now it's 3 weeks. They have a 3-week IR or 2-week IR.
Yeah.
So yes, you were making the distinction. It's 2 different statuses, and that's why you didn't want to combine them. But the layman might just say, hey, it's basically a long-term IR.
Yeah, exactly. And roster spots are so valuable in Dynasty Fantasy Football. And even 30-man leagues, every year I start out with a 25-man draft, and year 2 we import the 5-round rookie draft, and it expands to 30 players. So that makes – I'm not a big fan of I'm not a big fan of taxi squads. I better just expand the roster a little bit, as far as that goes. But some people love taxi squads. They love not touching their players. I want everybody to be available on my team. Not like saying, he's on taxi, you can't touch him. There's 100,000 rules, different rules for taxi squads. I've seen them all, and I don't like them at all. It's different strokes for different folks, kind of thing. But I better just have 30 or 35-man rosters instead of a 30-man roster with a 5-man taxi. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, the taxi squad is probably most valuable to the teams. We don't use this rule about draft order, but it doesn't sound like you do either based on your bylaws. But a lot of leagues I saw use like almost best ball points for to determine the draft order. Like they call it max points for in the sleeper leagues,
yes.
And the taxi spots don't count towards that total. So if you are trying to get a low score to tank, and you drafted, say, JSN this year, right? You could put JSN on your taxi squad, and he wouldn't count towards your points for. So there's one utility for it. And again, I don't subscribe to that points for thing, but that would be one distinction where it actually comes in. It's a real factor in fantasy leagues.
I don't. I tried pushing I love the settings on my fantasy league. I love being a commissioner and setting because I want my games to be like a pinball machine. I want a 5 points every time the water boy gives somebody water. Like, I mean, if that was my case, but some people don't even like PPR leagues. It's just weird how like the settings can change somewhere else, you know. But I guess I understand that whole what you said right there just makes sense. They don't do that on Sleeper. It's all added up. So
yeah, because my fantasy league, if they have one advantage, it's the ability to customize. But
yes.
I mean, I think that this is kind of well-known criticism is the site looks like Craigslist from 1997. You know, I mean, I'm shocked that my fantasy league hasn't done something to update their interface, to have an app, because I mean, Sleeper became Sleeper because of the resistance to them modernizing their interface.
I always said that if MFL had the same app as Sleeper, there would be no such thing as Sleeper right now. That's
be dead.
Yeah.
You got it. I would like to know the answer to that question.
I'd pay $120 a year to use Sleeper, and I'd pay it up front. To use MFL, and if it had all the same things that Sleeper had, like, because the settings on, you can't even give like 500-yard bonuses and things like that on Sleeper that you could do on MFL. The tiered, like I like when you get an 85-yard run, I want to have, first of all, not just a long play run. I want to give it tiered like a 0.01 point for every yard on an 80-yard run, things like that, like all kind of like great settings like that you could do on MFL.
I have a feeling Sleeper's going to get there. They keep improving. I mean, remember, they're only like a 5-year-old platform. And the whole idea behind Sleeper, I heard a great podcast with their CEO. He was talking about it's basically a social media app that you happen to play fantasy football on.
Right.
Because think about it. It's all contained. You know, you're texting with the people. Back in the day, you had to like send an email, then people reply to the email, or you go over to another app like GroupMe or WhatsApp, and it's back and forth. It's like... But Sleeper figured out to contain it all, and it's just like you said, it's a place where there was people in my leagues, like when I was doing traditional redraft, where we have so much interaction with fantasy football, and then February comes and we don't talk for another 4 months because But now in Sleeper and Dynasty, I'm constantly interacting with those people. So Sleeper figured out the social part of fantasy football.
Sleeper, figure out how to do fantasy hockey too, please. That would be great. Thank you very much. Yep. I would appreciate that.
I would think they're going to, yeah. I mean, it's so funny because over at RotoWire, where we do all fantasy sports and fantasy, it's like I forget that fantasy hockey is like a fringe thing because I'm with our guys every day that are grinding hockey and doing all this stuff and seeing all their weekly reports. So yeah, I forget that it's a fringe thing, but meanwhile, it's freaking awesome. I don't play it, but I can see how passionate the guys who do it are passionate about it.
Yeah, Toronto Dave's been chiming in here for a couple times already. Thanks for joining in, Toronto Dave. Interesting. The leagues the chats for my leagues are often active. Mine are active all the time. It's MF and me or MF and each other, or
now they
putting
are
stuff on a trade block. It's absolutely awesome the way Sleeper is done. Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
with Sleeper. But the days of the email and stuff, people would kind of fall off. Or if you have to go to another app, again, every league is different. But I noticed since we moved the leagues to an all-contained app like Sleeper, that there is more engagement from more people.
Yes. All right, so let's jump into the next section. Let's do. I'm going to dive in real fast, 45 seconds here. We'll drive into some settings that you prefer in your leagues. What's your favorite league? Are you more of a dynasty or a redraft guy?
Oh, dynasty, man. I mean, there's no better. Once you go dynasty, it's like if regular redraft is like missionary section, this is like like having an orgy, right? I mean, this is Dynasty League. It's just so much more strategic, where we all see the same players and value them completely different. I mean, look at the redraft rankings and then look at the Dynasty rankings. You're going to see players like Keenan Allen goes in the 3rd round of a single quarterback league in redraft, and a guy goes in like the 9th round of Dynasty startup leagues. It's the same player. He's got this huge chasm in. So Dynasty fantasy football, because there's so many different paths to figure. And by the way, anyone who says they have Dynasty figured out is lying to you. No one has figured out, because I don't know anyone that's won like 4 championships in a row. I do know people that have won 4 championships in a row in redraft, just not in Dynasty.
Yes, I did win 4 neighborhood championships in a row in redraft league, but not Dynasty.
Oh,
no,
good. Okay, all right.
I've won. I've actually they make leagues that like when in Dynasty, there's a rule that I had in one of my other leagues. that's I can't remember the name of it now. But if you win three years in a row, the whole league starts over.
The
again.
Empire League.
Yes. So that's
if you win 2, the one I'm in an Empire League, which is again, it's if you win. So a piece of your entry, like 30 or 40%, goes into an Empire pot every year, and if you win back-to-back championships, you get the pot. So we're in an Empire League now. It's like on year 5 or 6. That pot has grown. So if someone nails 2 championships, they get the money, and the league disassembles. Then you start all over.
2 is kind of unfair. I would say 3 is the good number. Then the guy is almost unstoppable at that point in time. It's so
whatever it is. It's just so hard to win too. I mean, it's because what happens is, let's say you win in year 1, John. All the other 11 of us know that you're the guy that we don't want winning, so nobody trades with you. Like, it's like almost like legal collusion in a way. Like, the year I won it 2 years ago, my Empire, I had the nuts team. I had a couple injuries. I was trying to trade. Nobody would trade me for anything more than like a total rip-off deal. Like, they're like, oh, okay, I'll give you Cooper Kupp, but you got to give me your next 5 first-round picks. I was like, oh, forget it. You know?
Right. No, I get that too. I get it. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite roster size? 10, 12, or 14 team kind of thing?
Okay, I love 12s. I think it's as far as like 12 teams in your league, but as many starting positions as you want to do. I like 2 running backs, 3 or 4 receivers, and then a few flexes. I'm cool with double tight end. I don't mind that as well. Or I like, the double PPR for tight end. I always like a tight end premium. And, I'm a super flex snob, but I play in a few single quarterback leagues. So large starting lineups. For redraft, John, I like very small benches. So you're forced to make critical decisions. So in the few redraft leagues I play in, I'll have these massive starting lineups and like 3 or 4 bench spots. So you have to make tough cuts on bye weeks. Like sometimes Kareem Hunt, like in the past, you draft him in the 6th or 7th round and he's on a bye and you need a win. So people drop players like that. It's so in redraft, small bench, and in any format, large starting lineups.
When you said 4 bench spots, I almost peed my pants. Like that made me nervous
for redraft.
I get it. The waiver wire is important in redraft. It's like the redraft is like a horse race compared to like a marathon for the dynasty league. So
dynasty, I'm all about the 35 bench, 40, whatever it is, because I want like Brock Purdy to be like the biggest bid on player, like a player like that. Oh my God, wait, Daniel Jones is hurt. Tyrod Taylor, 30% of budget. I need a quarterback in Superflex. Like, I love that kind of stuff, right? I don't like when, there's 5 guys that are top 35 wide receivers for the week on, that's why I went away from playing the 22-man formats a lot. And mostly it's got to be 30 deep for me, minimum, to get me interested.
Yeah, this 25-man startup we had now, like I said, it's like,
and expands though.
It's hard to even make trades right now because I don't want to give up any of my players because I have to take a 2 for 1. What am I going to do? I have to cut somebody else on my team right now. It's terrible.
And in those leagues, John, as you know, the third and fourth round rookie picks, when you have a shorter bench, they don't mean anything because you can't keep those guys anyway. Right. So the deeper the league, now 3rd, 4th, and even 5th round dart throws mean something in trade deals.
Yes, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is still on my team.
Is he real? No, he's not.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. I just cut Will Fuller in a couple leagues, which he was the guy that I was like holding on to forever. But
we played in 2 quarterback leagues for probably 15 years. So when Superflex started getting popular, I switched to Superflex, and a lot of my league mates were pissed about it. They're like, it's so much better with 2 quarterback because you got people by the short and curlies when you're in a 2 quarterback league, and if your quarterback goes down, now it's like somebody had Mark Sanchez as their starting quarterback because and the other guy lost the quarterback. They traded. I think it was the Chiefs running back Jamal Charles for Mark Sanchez, like back in the day. Like, I mean, those are the trades you make it because you're getting a 0 otherwise on your score. You got to do what you got to do.
For those who are newer to fantasy football, that would be like the equivalent of trading Baker Mayfield for Ken Walker. That would be like the equivalent trade right now. So as you see, like that sounds crazy, right? But if Baker's a starting quarterback, because think about this. Let's say Baker Mayfield is a starting quarterback. Where would he rank among wide receivers if he was eligible? Even if Baker is terrible, he's going to get you 14, 15 fantasy points a game. That's like wide receiver 14. It's like it's the same amount of points. So
not having a second quarterback is pretty much like just leaving one of your roster spots wide open. You're getting a 0 for that week, so you have to do something, and everybody knows they got you.
It's a death sentence. So. It's a death sentence.
It really is. So let me ask real fast. Do you have any kickers? Are you a fan of kickers or no?
So I went through my anti-kicker stage, right? And now I'm back in the mindset of let's not, if I'm going to have kickers in the league and I'm okay with that, let's do team kicker. All right. So you don't draft like Harrison Butker, you draft Chiefs kicker. So because nowadays it's like a guy gets cut, then it's some guy they're calling up. And I just don't want to have to, with 40 leagues, I just don't want to have to grind kicker names. So similar to like team defense, like I don't play a lot I play one IDP, but we like team defense because even if your star linebacker on the Ravens gets hurt, you could still play the Ravens. So team kicker, yes. Individual kicker, I prefer not.
Quick story about kickers. I'm gonna try to keep everything quick here, but it goes 3 minutes. There's nothing I can do about it.
That's how it goes, man. So when we're talking fantasy and we're enjoying ourselves, and hopefully the audience is getting value out of it, I think a couple extra minutes, no big deal.
So our kicker scoring was like 0 to 30 yards was 3 points, 30 to 40 was 4, 40 to 50 was 5, 50 to 60 was 6. That kind of thing.
Yeah,
over
3,
like
4, 5. 3, 4, 5 scoring. They call that.
So these guys, I just talked these guys into a dynasty league, and they're all getting in there. And like I think it was week 2, Sebastian Janikowski had like 6 field goals that were like 55 and 62 yards. Well, anyway, Sebastian Janikowski, because of the length of the field goal and what he made, he had like 64 points that day. And the guy's like, this is such bullshit. He scored more than both my quarterbacks combined. What kind of stupid league is this? I'm like,
right.
Whoa, this guy got -3 for his kickers. He missed 2 extra points. Like, get out of here. Like, it just happened to work out that week. So everything kind of calmed down after that week. But it was like a mutiny. It was like a mutiny on the horizon here was coming soon.
The disdain for kickers is not because people don't like kickers in fantasy. It's that nobody wants to grind kickers now that we're all in a lot of leagues,
Yes.
And no one wants to hey, I have Sebastian Janikowski, so he's on a bye this week or he's hurt. I don't want to hold a kicker. I want to pick up this running back. So I think that's where the kicker, the anti-kickerites are. Of course, and I think team kicker does solve that.
Yeah, so that you already talked about your DST, same thing, team DST. IDP is kind of something. I haven't gone down a rabbit hole IDP yet. I've entered the Devi stratosphere now. I'm only in 2 Devi leagues, but it has helped. I tell you what, even 1 year in there, I got in the Devi Royal League with Jeff Bell and Kevin and all those guys. They're super smart. So being in a league like that with these guys who know their stuff, it has. This year's rookie draft was so much easier for me because I already knew all the players that were coming up. So it was it ended up being it's a lot of work, and I don't really watch too much college football. I subscribe to one of the sites that has the Devi players, and I trend them all the time. And when I have free time, I'm trending all players, see who moved up, who moved down, kind of things like that. And it's only a Power 5 conference thing, so it's not every player that ever existed in college, but it's actually been pretty refreshing to be in Devi and kind of see the things going on. Rookie draft came around this year. I knew all the people I wanted. So yes, the Devi Royale crew, Toronto Dave, exactly who I was talking about.
Yeah, no, Devi, I could see the appeal of it, right? Similar to you, during the football season, I watch only pro football. As soon as the Super Bowl is over is when I start my process catching up. And, all the guys over at RotoWire, they are college football sickos. So I read all of their stuff. And again, I subscribe to a lot of the other sites that do all this kind of stuff. So I see the appeal. IDP, I've played in them. I just don't enjoy it. But if you love IDP and you're passionate about defensive players, all the more power to you. And maybe I'll change my mind. I'm always open to change my mind. But in the couple leagues that I was in, I found myself disengaging a little bit. So that's where I'm at. But I like the IDP. I mean, the Devi stuff.
I grew up with the 85 Bears. I love the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens. Nothing makes me happier as a team than seeing a good defensive struggle. I love defenses, but I just don't want to ruin the game of football by going into IDP and rooting for this guy, rooting for that guy. I don't even play team defense anymore. I just keep it out of the whole stratosphere altogether. So
in all my leagues, I think 1 or 2 of them have the kicker and defense. And you said something interesting about the liking defensive football. I like defensive football too. Just like in martial arts and UFC, I love when the guys are on the ground. I hate when the referee stamps them up. I want to see the guys struggle, even if it's not this exciting shoot 'em out. We all love shootouts. Patrick Mahomes versus Joe Burrow, 60-point game, all this stuff. But if it's just two teams grinding it out with defense, I enjoy watching that brand of football too.
Yes. So what do you the scoring I have right? This is a new one right now. I have half point for wide receiver, full point PPR for running backs, and then 1.5 point PPR for tight ends. Do you like tiered scoring, or do you like all the PPR across the board, maybe tight end premium? What do you think about the tiered scoring system?
Yeah, tiered scoring has to coincide, John, with roster spots. So if you're going to, in the example that you just gave, where you have the wide receivers getting a half a point less for reception than the running back, that should correlate with having more wide receiver spots than running backs. Because if there's equal spots, like, these leagues that have like 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and 4 flex, you're going to fill those spots up with all running backs. But if you're forced to start 4 receivers and 2 running backs, that makes more sense, because you're going to have, oh my God, I need receivers to fill these 4 spots, but they get a half a point less than the running backs. So I think tight ends we agree on, because they don't score well on par with the other position players, they should be elevated. But if you're going to have a tier difference between the running backs and the receivers, just make sure that your leagues account for that with the number of active roster spots.
Yep. Yeah, I have 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and then it's a tight end, and then 2 flexes, and it's premium. So the league I just drafted, I drafted Mark Andrews and T.J. Hockenson in a full point PPR advantage for tight ends. So,
what do you think about double tight end leagues where you're forced to start 2?
I think it's pretty much the same as doing a kicker, because anything past like tight end like 7 to all the way to tight end 22, it's all just a touchdown dependent player. So it's kind of all luck to me as far as that's concerned.
Right, but if you start your draft with just say Andrews and Pitts or Andrews and Hockenson or some 2 guys on it, you have a distinct advantage at that position.
That's the cat's pajamas to have those 2 players, and one guy in the league does have Kelsey and Pitts. That's for a dynasty league startup to get those 2 guys. Obviously, you punted on other positions to get there, but at the same time, he's going to have an advantage for a long time if Kyle Pitts pans out to what everybody thinks he's going to be, which we've already seen flashes of. It just he needs a better offensive system. But yes,
let me ask you a player take then though. Who's your dynasty tight end one? Is it Pitts or is it like Andrews or
Andrews?
Okay.
I just think Kelsey's obviously the best player, but I think that where his age is right now, it's such a concern that I'm going to go with Andrews right now, because he's got a 6-year advantage on Kelsey. So yeah. It's Andrews right now.
Yeah, it's funny because, there was a quote that came out from Kelsey that said that he's going to play as long as he can. And then you start thinking about Tony Gonzalez, who played till age 37, was tight end like 5 or 6 that year. It's like, if everyone's like, when I draft Kelsey, it's 1 or 2 more years. What if it's 4? So it has me rethinking, should I be taking Kelsey? I mean, you get him as the tight end 3 in Dynasty. So in this startup that I'm in right now, he actually just went as the first tight end off the board. But it's getting me thinking for future startups, who cares if he retires in 3 years? I mean, it's worth it with a player like him. So we digress.
I'll never really have those players because I'm more of a quarterback chaser. I think it's so important to have top tier quarterbacks than it is top. Even in a tight end premium, I'd much rather have Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and those kind of players as opposed to like a Travis Kelce. Now, yeah, it is important to have a tight end. Every position premium is you want to set your roster up with the best player at every position. But I'm a quarterback guy. I love quarterback points. They usually score the most points in the league every week, and I'd rather just have those extra 7 or 8 points. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Kelsey's a league winner, and so is Andrews. And I sat in the playoffs last year and watched Mark Andrews catch like 15 passes for 15 first downs and 112 yards, and it knocked me out of the playoffs in the league, and I was so pissed about it. But that's the advantage of having a tight end premium league where the guys get that, and having for first down scoring, which we'll talk about in a minute, is important to me also. So yeah. So. When you real fast quarterbacks, touchdown passing quarterbacks, 4, 5, or 6 points.
I think 5 is the right. I like because if someone has an opinion on 4 or 6, I'm only 5. The leagues that I commission, John, it's like 5's right down the middle. Nobody complains.
Exactly. All right. So when somebody gets sacked, like a Justin Fields who holds the ball too long, kind of things like that, should it be -1 or -2 for a sack?
I think -1. I don't want to see but if it's -2. That's fine. Like whatever the league is, it is. And I will adjust. Like if I'm on the clock in the first round and I'm deciding between Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and it's -2, that's going to sway my decision. Read your rules, right? So if I'm setting it, I do -1. But if somebody thinks that a sack is basically the same cost of an interception, which you could argue it is, right? Yes. You could argue it is. So I think that there's merit to that. I just have my settings at 1, but when I read your rules, I was like, oh, that does make sense. But it will sway my decision. You have correctly identified Fields as someone that holds the ball too long.
Now, the opposite side of the spectrum is I'm a Dolphins fan only because I'm kind of not a Dolphins fan anymore, but I'm a Dolphins fan because I grew up watching Dan Marino. Yeah. And that guy threw for 4,900 yards, 48 touchdowns, and only was sacked 6 times or 8 times in 1 year. Now, what a difference! Only gets sacked 8 times in 1 year. That's a good offensive line, but also he never, he didn't really have play action because he never had a good wide receiver. I mean, a good running back. But the guy just knew how to get rid of the ball and had an instantaneous release of the ball when he threw the ball. Also,
how dare you say the receivers? I don't even ingest. I mean, the Marx brothers, right? I mean, it was
Duper and Clayton. They were those posters in my room. Some people have naked girls, all that other stuff. I had Dan Marino and the Marx brothers on my ceiling in my bedroom. So
I think I remember. You remember those stores where you used to flip through the posters, like the record stores, and I think I remember the Marx brothers, the Duper and Clayton. They were good in Tecmo Bowl as well. If you played video games back then,
I still have it. We come to my garage after the games between the 3 o'clock. I'm Central Time Zone, so there's noon games, the 3 o'clock games, and then there's the Sunday night games. We'll watch both those games. Come in the garage. I got the original Tecmo Bowl, and then they make a Tecmo Bowl, Super Tecmo Bowl, and they make them now. You can buy them every year, so you can buy the updated Tecmo Bowl for this year if you want. We play for shots and beers between games and stuff like that all the time, and
I love that. Yeah, I bought the updated one like 5 years ago, and then I stopped buying it. But yeah, that's so cool. Like when you can you don't have to use. You remember QB Eagles? They didn't use Randall Cunningham's name because they didn't license it, so it was QB Eagles. So I like that you could play with the modern players as well. It's it's a nostalgia thing.
Yeah, they don't seem to have the Bo Jacksons anymore. Things like that. Everybody's kind of like they're still
cheat code.
Yeah, exactly. Or like in the original Madden, you could take players and just press a spin button all the way down the sidelines, and the whole defense would hit them, and you couldn't knock them out of bounds. You couldn't tackle them. It was like So they've obviously progressed from there. But
is Bo Jackson the ultimate Tecmo Bowl player? Is he the GOAT of Tecmo Bowl?
It's going to be him or Thurman Thomas. Like one of those guys were absolutely awesome. They were almost unstoppable in those games. Once you took a sweep to the outside, even when you call the play and the entire team comes around, you can go up and then come back around and still outrun the defense with Thurman Thomas and Bo Jackson. So
Randall Cunningham, or QB Eagles as he was called in that game, was my guy. I thought because he can have the speed of a running back, but he also obviously could throw.
You can't use the Eagles because of him. Yeah. So that's one of the rules. You can't use the Bills or the Eagles or 49ers back in the day. That was
49ers.
When they had the Super Bowl run, the Bills Super Bowl run, and the 49ers, like teams that were absolutely awesome. Running backs, 1 point per first down. Do you like that rule?
Not a full point for first down, but I'm sorry. I was thinking point per carry. Yeah. That's great. I mean, that's, it awards for that. I don't put these little, the point per carry, a point per first down, but I understand the merit of it. I'm not against almost any rule as long as I, read through it and kind of recalibrate. But what you're doing here, all these rules you're asking me, is what they're doing is they're awarding players for doing valuable football things. And I'm for that. And they're taking away points for players that do suboptimal football things. I mean, there's been a complaint about PPR. If a running back catches a pass for -5 yards, he still gets points. So people have a problem with that. I understand. As long as I know the rules ahead of time, I'll adjust.
Yeah, the Derrick Henrys and Nick Chubbs who have 23 carries for 86 yards and no touchdowns. It's like, okay, well, you got 7 first downs. So it's the same as a running back out of the backfield catching the ball. So that's
a lot of these rules you're asking about, they're well thought out, very reasoned rules. So these things that I in the past dismissed, I'm going to relook at them and put them up for some votes because you're giving me some really good ideas. And that's why I think your podcast is so valuable. Like you might be like, hey, I'm just asking this guy PPR, but like we're talking through this stuff. And this is how you make leagues better. This is how you make leagues more engaging and sustained.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We have a 0.1 for every rushing attempt. So every 10 rushing attempts is a full point also, things like that. And then 100 and 200-yard rushing. I think it's important to have a 100-yard bonus used to be an automatic 6 points, which is why I like MFL because it shouldn't be just an automatic. If you get 99 yards, you get nothing. If you get 100, you get 6. Like it's crap. MFL has it for every yard, you get a 0.1. So if you got 99 yards, you get like, a 5.9 points instead of a 6 kind of thing like that. They don't have that on Sleeper. I wish they would adjust that. And the 200-yard bonus, because of the fact that you're handcuffed with these scoring rules, I have the 200-yard bonus is twice as much as a 100-yard bonus because it doesn't happen very often, first of all. And second of all, it should be a major accomplishment when you have a running back that does score 200 points. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, what's it called? Again, your bonuses make sense. I think that is pinball scoring. I mean, what is a typical winner have? How many points do they have? Like if you want to lock in, is it like 180 in your league? I mean, it sounds like I used the example of 105 before. You must have been laughing your ass off. I mean, that sounds like the worst score in the league.
105 is when you forget to set a lineup. I think.
Right, there you go. That's what I'm saying. I'm embarrassed now. So what? No, seriously, is like 178, 158? Like, what's a typical the guy who gets like the third highest score in the league get each week?
So every league is different because of the fact that there's different players in certain leagues. Some people hate, like Kyle August hates PPR. Like he wants to be like back in 1985 when he was like
touchdown only.
Touchdown only, field goals, touchdown, and defensive touchdowns, and that's it. But some people like me, myself, I like them all. So I think the highest score ever in any of my leagues was like 307. Like, so that's it is pinball scoring, but
307?
307, baby. Yeah, that's the highest
Oh.
ever. I mean, let's just say that's the highest ever. Most of the rounds, there you go. Try close to 300 points. So the same thing. So it's not uncommon to have 300 point scoring leagues. Yeah, that's Chris Smith.
My brain would break.
Oh, it's so great because
I would just need to recalibrate. That's all. Once I got it, I got it.
Chris Joel Smith, the team will be evaluating later in this podcast, in the show. So we'll I'm glad that he chimed in on this. But I want people to be rewarded for things they do, for the first downs, for the catches, for the sacks, the touchdowns, the running, the Justin Fields rushes are super important. I mean, they get pretty much scored like that every week. But imagine if Justin Fields rushing last year with first downs on top of that. If you didn't have first downs in your league, that's an extra 4 or 5 points for him every game.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. I like all these tweaks. I told you I'm going to implement some of the scoring changes that we talked about today, and I'm going to put them up for. I say a vote but in the league I commission, I just say, hey, guys, if it's fundamentally changing the league, you probably do have to vote on it, and I have to come up with a rationale. But any leagues I start new, these will be the default rules, not voted on. This will just be like what it is because it makes sense to me. This is like high level fantasy football theory right here.
Very hard to change scoring after you've already started a league. It's almost impossible. So, yes, you have to do it on a new startup, yes.
Right. Well, you have to give time to adjust. I remember in a couple of the single quarterback leagues where I was trying to change them to Superflex, the compromise we said is, okay, everyone, in 2 years from now, we're changing to Superflex. Make all the adjustments, So you give time people to adjust. But, you'll get people hate change just in life in general, so you'll get that natural resistance.
Pushing Superflex and some of the leagues was like, what? Some of the one quarterback leagues we were in, I tried doing Superflex, and it went over like a fart in church, and like it was. But now everybody likes it, so it is what it is.
Right. It's sometimes you need to like lead people through that. What they say, heroes always leave with arrows in their back, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
right. Yeah. Wide receivers and tight ends, 0.5 per first down.
Yeah, I mean that for the same reason of all the running backs. It's doing good football things. I think we covered that.
And then what about getting extra points for rushing and receiving combined points? So if you have a guy who's got 75 rushing yards and 25 receiving yards, would you like to have a combination of points to get extra points also?
Yeah, again, I'm not against any of these things. I think that these are all well thought out. And yeah, it just makes you rethink. Like, here's my question to you. With that particular rule, with total scrimmage yards, does that change player values at all? Are there players that stick out as more valuable? Is it like Christian McCaffrey because he gets 160 total yards, but very rarely breaks 100 yards on each one of those rushing or receiving?
Well, obviously, it helps the cheat code players, the Deebo Samuels who touch the ball, who do reverse out of the backfield. It's good for running. It's good for, obviously, running backs who catch balls out, the Antonio Gibsons and the Saquon Barkley, stuff like that. I mean, generally speaking, you don't need to worry about Saquon Barkley scoring, but guys who have, let's just say like a Samaje Perine kind of thing like that. He might get 1 or 2 rushes a game or maybe 4 rushes a game, but he's also getting 7 receptions out of the backfield. The combination of that total yards, he may not score any touchdowns, but because of the fact that he's got 84 yards rushing and 23 yards receiving, or that kind of thing, or vice versa, he's going to get 100 yards, and that's a 3 or 4 or 5 point bonus because he's got combination bonus, so that kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes all sense to me.
What advice would you give somebody who wants to jump from being just a regular player to being a commissioner?
Don't do it. I was kidding. Yeah, just try it out first in a low stakes like redraft league, because just make sure everyone thinks they want to do this before they do it, but there's a tremendous responsibility or the league's going to fall apart. Make sure that you're having positive interactions and understand that you're going to have to make decisions that are or not in the interest of your team just to show fairness. So you also have to be proactive. You have to, even in my redraft leagues, I know this is not common practice as it is in Dynasty, I collect all the money up front, right? So, a lot of times it's making people go chase money. There's nothing worse than winning a league or cashing in a league, and all of a sudden, you're waiting for money. Or so if you're a commissioner, understand you're going to have uncomfortable conversations with people about collecting money. So you must really love fantasy football and be interested in keeping your league on the path. Don't just do it to do it, because the league can fall apart. Anyone can commission, but very few people are good commissioners. You have to be an excellent communicator. So if you want to do it, make sure you're taking it seriously. Try it out first in a low-stakes situation, because if you're going to become a dynasty commissioner, it's getting married. It's a lifelong commitment.
Yeah, that's funny because I have a financial secretary for every one of my leagues. I don't have to worry about the monetary situation. I pay for all the drinks at the rookie draft, the startup draft, for the person who collects all the money, because I know how much of a pain in the butt it is. But it takes such a pressure off me for not having to worry about collecting money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
but again, at the end of the day, if there's a money problem with the money secretary, you still have to intervene. So even though the specific task of DMing people, you are still in charge of that.
I guess because I'm in all home leagues, it's never a problem. If I was in online leagues, I guess it would be more of a situation. So, yeah, I get it. All right, so this is my version of news and views and rumors around the NFL. I don't just kind of say what's going on. I ask questions about each NFL team. So we're going to real fast. We're going to do this kind of like, I guess they call
rapid
it like
fire.
Yeah, exactly. So Bears, are they going to cut Chase Claypool at some point in time?
No, they paid a second-round pick for him. They're in for better, for worse. Practice squad maybe, or game day inactive maybe, but it's like that guy who made a bad trade in your dynasty league, and then the player almost is worthless. They can't cut them. They overpaid 10x for him. He's there until the contract runs out this year. Win now team,
are you buying or selling Joe Mixon?
Joe Mixon. Oh, I'm in on Joe Mixon. I mean, they're not getting rid of Joe Mixon. What's the alternative? Leonard Fournette for a few. What's the difference spending $12 million on a guy? Right? If you don't care, you're in the Super Bowl window now. So in on Joe Mixon, but understand, like any running back in Dynasty, it's mostly a 1-year proposition with very few guys.
Yeah, just the looming possibility of suspension for him is the only thing that's. If I'm in win now, I don't want to take 6 weeks off of having one of my top 3 running backs, because of that situation.
Would you pay pick 2.1 for him in a rookie draft? Would you pay 112? I mean, no brainer if you need a running back, right?
Yeah.
Or is that too risky for you?
No, I don't have any picks for probably 17 straight years, so I have no problem selling my picks. I'll trade for other picks I want or during the rookie draft. I make about 6 or 7 trades in every one of my rookie drafts every year, so I have picks are useless to me at the rookie draft when guys really don't know who they're drafting or who they care about. That's when I make all my money. So I guess
you're a sharp player.
I have no problem trading 201 or 203, especially because we get whoever wins another incentive I have for winning the. If you get in a shit bowl, it's a lottery. But if you win the shit bowl, you also get pick 113.
I saw that. Yeah, I love that rule. I think it's a sharp rule. Yeah, no. So Joe Mixon, he's absolutely a buy, especially whoever's team that he's on right now. It just wants him off the damn roster. So
right.
If he comes out and has 80 yards and a touchdown and 5 for 40 in the air, you're not going to be able to get him for that first rounder again. So he's one of those guys that he's going to produce. So just get him now.
Bills, would you rather have Damian Harris or James Cook in a full PPR, but also a point per first down league?
Yeah, I think it's James Cook. You're talking about dynasty, obviously, because
yes.
Damian Harris is one of these mercenary running backs. I mean, they probably brought him in to relieve some of the goal line duties of Josh Allen. So Damian Harris is going to be a good player. But it's like, fine, he's a little bit better than Devin Singletary. James Cook has got the upside. I mean, you may not. He's younger, so I think that for me it'd be an easy call. But I understand why it's a question.
I like Damian Harris, so that's what
fair.
we're on. Yeah.
Do you think he's going to score more or less than 8 touchdowns?
More than 8 touchdowns, because of the fact that if you look at Josh Allen's touchdown percentage in the red zone, they tried to hand the ball off last year on first and second down to the running backs. They couldn't get it done, and it forced him to run or pass the ball on third down. So Damian Harris is so much of a better inside the tackles running back that I think Damian Harris is going to score a lot of points this year.
It's one of those decisions where I could be persuaded either way. Like I could totally see Damian Harris being like, "Oh, it's this year's Jamal Williams. He has 14 touchdowns," and I'm like, "We play this back," and be like, "Oh, I got it wrong." So there's a lot of merit to that argument.
It's pretty. It's like I'm in the 40%, 40%, and 20%. I'm not really sure on that whole argument between those.
It's a great
guys,
question.
So. Broncos, are you holding Cortland Sutton?
You have to, right? He's got no trade value in dynasty leagues. I mean, who's trading for Cortland Sutton, right? I mean, what's the best you think you could do? I mean, if you have rookie Jaden Reed, would you give up Jaden Reed for Cortland Sutton? Cortland Sutton has always been like the idea of Cortland Sutton. He hasn't actually produced other than a short stretch. I just think you have to hold him if you have him and hope that the offense rebounds because. And if he has a couple good games, don't be the guy who puts him on the block the minute he scores the touchdown. That doesn't really work in most leagues. But if you want to get out, you're going to get out on 80 cents on the dollar. And the best you could if you want out right now, the best you could probably do is one of the rookie running backs that goes in like the third round. But who wants to do that? He still has the 8, 9, 10 touchdown upside. So hold only because you're not getting anything for him.
It's hilarious you said that because that's like the thing in all of our leagues. Every time somebody does anything, right to the trade block on every one of the message boards. You know?
It's like, dude, come on. Like, we know Tyler Algier just punched in a touchdown. We're not giving you like next year's first for him. It's just not happening.
Cardinals, how much Keontae Ingram do you have?
A good amount. And it's not, it's like James Conner, he's a lock to miss 2 games. And again, when you have these guys like Keontae Ingram, you're not hoping that this is it's great if he ends up being the future running back, but you just want 2 starts. Do you remember a couple seasons ago when David Montgomery went down? Khalil Herbert saved you. He was like the life preserver boat, right? He was just like the dinghy that got you out of the rough waters for 2 weeks. So Keontae Ingram, no one projects the Cardinals to be good, but I would say, on my 40 teams, I have at least 6 or 7 Keontae Ingrams, and I'm glad I do because week 9, when I need him, he'll be there for me.
Absolutely. I skipped the Buccaneers on accident, and my favorite player in the NFL. Are you buying or selling Chris Godwin?
I don't have much Chris Godwin because a lot of I know I regret it. It's just that I usually don't draft the guys off the big injury, and in all the leagues I went last year, I just was not drafting him. I was a Mike Evans drafter for where he was. So I'm embarrassingly have none, but. And this is why I play a lot of best ball. I've been trying to secure him in best ball. He seems to go a little bit earlier than I like. It's trusting Baker Mayfield. So I think that I'm on the wrong side of this one. So I don't have any Chris Godwin. I traded him away in a couple of leagues I had for players that were healthy last year and the year before. So I think I'm going to live to regret that. It sounds like you're a big Chris Godwin guy.
Got him everywhere. Yes, absolutely. So
I'm going to regret. No problems with Baker Mayfield there?
I have a problem with Baker Mayfield only being able to utilize one side of the field kind of thing, and I'm not sure that's going to. But if anything, it'll work out for a slot receiver. If Chris Godwin gets a lot of his routes in the slot, which hopefully he does. So that'll be a situation where I think the middle of the field is just the point where Baker still has vision. So they're not going to have the passing attack they had the last couple of years with Brady. Obviously, he's probably going to lose 20 or 25 targets, but I still think he's such a good receiver that I want him to be on my PPR teams.
Are you into Rachaad White? Is he a player in PPR that you're interested in?
I don't like him, but I think that he's going to have probably 60 receptions this year. So it's not that I love him, but I have him and Antonio Gibson as my running backs in a lot of PPR leagues because I think they're just going to be PPR machines.
Yeah, so. Rachaad White or Jerry Jeudy. So if someone was offered, you don't know who's on. This is a trade that I made. I'm curious, which side for Dynasty would you prefer?
Jerry Jeudy. That's not even. I think Rachaad White's seems like he's going to be a 1-year wonder, and you had that if you own him right now, you got past the draft. It's like going through a haunted house. You got past the draft, and now the next stage is getting through the Leonard Fournettes and the other guys that are still out there in free agency. And next year, I don't think he may be the workhorse this year, but I think he's a 1-year wonder.
Okay, so, cool.
Chargers, is Isaiah Spiller dead or is he just hibernating?
It's, hibernating is probably, but okay, the Chargers have been throwing 4th-round picks to try to find Austin Eckler some relief for a few years now. So it's discouraging that Spiller did nothing, but it's also encouraging that he was one of the youngest guys. I think that if you have these deep leagues, I'm holding on to him, right? You have to hold on to him, and you hope that he wins the number 2 job. But the Chargers are a real threat to bring in one of the veterans, whether it's Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, just to give Eckler that piece of relief that he wants. Now, Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator there. He was the offensive coordinator in Dallas last year. This could be the Zeke spot where Zeke, he had 12 touchdowns last year. So to answer your original question, Spiller could be dead. I'm holding him because I paid up for him in my stupid rookie draft. It was a bad move, but I'm not cutting him just in case because I want to see how this situation plays out.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a twinkle in the eye value kind of for me. So yeah, absolutely. I think he's just hibernating.
You can't cut a guy like that this
No.
early. I mean, it's like, I still have Anthony McFarland, running back that was a 4th-round running back in a few leagues, and now I'm seeing him start to get clipped off rosters, and this is like year 4.
Wow. Chiefs, Sky Moore can't separate. So is Rashee Rice the future?
Isn't it funny how last year everyone was aggressively drafting Sky Moore in the first round of their rookie drafts, and this year there's bias, so now nobody's drafting Rashee Rice in the first round of their rookie draft. So I might have suffered from this bias as well. So far, I mean, who knows, right? It's like I've taken Rice in a few spots because the price is right. You get him at 2.8, 2.10, 2.11. Sometimes he goes at 2.3, 2.4 in those rookie drafts. So I don't want to be left out. So in my 40 drafts, I probably got 5 or 6 Rashee Rices, enough where I just want to be in if it happens.
These guys both scare me because they're not from Power 5 conferences. They're from small schools. So I wonder how long the learning curve is for Rashee Rice, like Sky Moore is. Is Sky Moore now acclimated to the NFL? I mean, he was still running. Even in the Super Bowl, he caught a touchdown, but he ran the wrong route. He's on the wrong side of the field. It just worked out that way. But Rashee Rice, is he going to be someone that's going to take a whole year, 2 years to be? I think he's a better player than Sky Moore, but I mean, that's to be determined, I guess.
Yeah,
but
and it also depends on if Kadarius Toney is here to stay, right? I mean, if Toney is going to have 13 or 14 healthy games and be 80% of the player we think he is, that means Rice or Sky Moore is going to basically be irrelevant. If Toney misses games, these guys might be thrust into an offense where Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. So there's a chance that one of them, Rice or Sky Moore, even if they're bad football players, is a usable guy in fantasy football.
Yeah. Colts, is Anthony Richardson ready to face NFL defenses yet?
Doesn't matter if he is or not. He's playing week 1. I mean, you spend a number 3 overall pick on a player, and how many you do all different sorts of tasks. Do you ever learn by watching? No, you learn by doing. And they have the green light to play him right away. And what's great though is like people think that he's a volatile player. He has such a high floor because of the rushing, right? So there's zero doubt in my mind. I would say almost no chance that Anthony Richardson sits week 1 unless he looks like bad Zach Wilson in training camp. They are going to let him learn through mistakes. And for fantasy football, even if he has like 80 yards passing in a game and barely a touchdown, he's going to have 80 yards rushing in a game. So if you're like in a best ball dynasty, which I'm in one right now, I just actually took Anthony Richardson at pick 12. I went a little aggressive right there. Yeah, because I don't have any of them. Again, if this was like $1,000 league, I would take Deshaun Watson at that spot ahead of him. But in a best ball format where I don't have to call the shot, so yes to week 1, and yes, I think that even if he's bad at real football, which he's not going to be, he's going to be really good for fantasy football. And a number 3 overall pick, John, that means he's going to get 3 years with no matter what happens to prove himself.
There's a lot of number 3 overall picks that have not panned out in the NFL. So, I'm keeping the Sam Darnolds, and I'm keeping all the other players that we mentioned before. That
none that run like this though. The rushing, the dynamic run, like the Zach Wilsons, the Sam Darnolds, like those guys when they fail. Even Daniel Jones is like somewhere in between, right? So, but when you're as prolific as a runner as we've seen on the college tape with Anthony Richardson, he's too big to fail for fantasy.
Yeah, I guess I'm worried about the injuries at that point in time. I don't want to. RG3 situation. I loved RG3. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks. But Michael Vick did the same thing and had a great career also. So,
and also Anthony Richardson 6'4", like 235 or something like that. Whereas those other guys were a little bit more slight. Anthony Richardson's built more like Cam Newton.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, that kind of
yeah, or Josh Allen.
Right, Cowboys. Should I go back and get all the Jalen Tolbert shares that I gave away already?
I would leave him on the floor with the other rip tickets. I mean, it's possible. I mean, right now, he's probably on the waiver wire in some leagues, right?
Most of them.
But with Brandon Cook, CeeDee Lamb, and now Michael Gallup getting back to form, plus Tony Pollard, I mean, what's the best you could hope for? That he's the number 5 option. I think he's probably left in the gutter. Or if you have an extra roster spot, you want to roster him before he has a big game. That's fine. I'm not into him. How about you?
I just because of the fact that when I got him and David Bell last year in so many leagues, there's a place in my heart because I had to trade up for these guys and I gave up too much to get them, and now they're just like
Sometimes that's just how it goes. It's like you've been to like a horse racing track and all the rip tickets on the floor. I think that one is it's done. It's the sunk cost, Johnny.
The cool kids say it'd be like that sometimes.
We're not cool. So
I'm not cool, so I just heard somebody say that one time. The Dolphins. Why can't Jeff Wilson just be the hero the NFL needs?
Jeff Wilson. I mean, so they have A-Chain. Everyone likes him. Raheem Mostert's actually good for the 2 games he plays. Yeah, no, Jeff Wilson's going to have – there's going to be we talked about the different formats helping us in Dynasty. DFS is, I still think, the most underrated way to play Dynasty fantasy football, meaning when the DFS guys are on someone that week, I want to be on that guy. When Jeff Wilson gets that start in week 6 and he's like because Raheem Mostert's hurt and Devin A-Chain isn't up to par yet, and like Jeff Wilson's going to have a clarified start where he's getting 15 touches in this awesome offense. So I'm holding on to Jeff Wilson. He's not even close to my cut line. So he's going to be the hero that you want him to be, but it just may not be every week. If you get 3 good starts out of him, that's enough to pay the bills in Dynasty.
I love that answer. Thank you very much. Eagles. Kenneth Gainwell will be the back to own by which week?
Oh, man, I don't think I think the Eagles have proven that it's always a committee. So Kenneth Gainwell's best games are going to probably be on your bench since he'll never have a clarified start. Now, if you're in a 4 flex plus all these other leagues and you force to start him, sure, you'll get him. But it's like Boston Scott will get the touchdown, or that'll be the week that Jalen Hurts runs in 2. I mean, I like Gainwell. I just don't think you're ever going to be able to successfully predict when he's good. Like, it's a clarified start for Gainwell.
Right. Falcons. Kyle Pitts is your tight end what in Dynasty startups?
It's getting lower every year, isn't it? Right? I mean, I still think you have to take him as the 3rd tight end. At very minimum, the 2nd. I mean, sorry, at most the 2nd. We agree on Andrews, age plus production. I think that we outlined earlier in the podcast the case for Kelsey at 2 or Hawkinson, So I would probably take Pitts 3rd.
3rd is my best case scenario. Generally speaking, I'd probably have him. Yeah, probably 3 or 4 right around that area. So that's
right.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I mean Hawkinson being the other guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
49ers. Sam Darnold or bust?
Sam Darnold. I mean, he's going to be the week 1 starter. It's I mean, all the news that's come out recently, Brock Purdy's a starter if healthy. I would bet against it. Fading injury optimism in fantasy football will usually make you money. And so what's the under-over for start? If I told you the under-over for Sam Darnold starts on the 49ers this year is 4.5.
Over. I don't care what you say. It's going to be over.
Okay, so 6.5, you're still over?
I just have a feeling that Purdy's not going to be ready for their opening season. I think they already like Darnold more than Lance. I've seen reports of that, but I believe that anyway because I don't think Trey Lance is ready for the NFL. I mean, yes, the rushing – they don't want a quarterback to just hold the ball and rush, kind of like the Bears kind of situation right now. Mm-hmm. They want a quarterback to be a game manager, don't throw interceptions, keep the ball moving, keep the clock running, and with a good defense to shut their teams down. And Sam Darnold's the perfect quarterback for this situation. So that's
if in John McGlynn's sportsbook, you have to set the number of Sam Darnold starts because you need you can't make it too obvious because you want to make money on both sides. What's the number that you're telling your handicappers to set the Sam Darnold starts at for this year?
I want it to be as low as possible, but I think it's going to be 7.
So you think the sportsbook number would be 7? You think that's going to get you equal action on both sides?
No, I would take the under on 7, but I want it to be 7. I guess
right.
That's kind of the.
So I would say my number at Allen's sportsbook would be 5.5, and I want to see where the action goes.
So we're close. Yeah. All right. 5.5 is probably a much better number for the bookies. That kind of deal. But yeah.
I think that's the number where you're not sure which side to take. And I think listen, 5 starts. Sam Darnold's available at QB 34, 36 in these dynasty startups. Like that could be a start. I'd rather have him than, the certainty of Desmond Ridder for the full season.
Yeah. Pat Fitzmaurice took him 2 picks before I did our last startup, and I was so pissed.
Snipe.
So, yeah. So, Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence or Jalen Hurts in dynasty as your, let's say, quarterback. Let's say you're on the board at number 5 or number 4, and these guys are on the clock right now. Somebody took obviously Mahomes, Allen, and Herbert. Bam, quarterback 4. Who are you taking?
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts in my rankings would be the 2nd quarterback. I would take him ahead of Josh Allen because he's got the contract insulation just as Josh Allen does, 3 years younger. I think we can argue the better team. Jalen Hurts is the answer because after Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts is my guy. I mean, in redraft, I would take him as the 1st quarterback off the board.
Yeah, I just feel like they had such an easy schedule last year, and this year is going to there'll be a reality check
that's
about
fair.
what. So that's the only I like Trevor Lawrence because I feel like Trevor Lawrence makes his receivers better, where Jalen Hurts, the team makes Jalen Hurts better. That's the only reason. So long term, I want Trevor Lawrence to be my quarterback.
These guys are all in a big tier. There's
Yes.
7 quarterbacks, and I think we all can agree that Mahomes is the number one guy because of the floor and the ceiling, and he's like the Superman. And then we could have a discussion. If you told me you like Joe Burrow ahead of those guys, I'm not going to tell you no. It's
Right.
that it's you see these guys come off in a certain order, and right, Jalen Hurts has only quote done it for 1 year, maybe a year and a half. We could be sitting here doing startups next year, and Trevor Lawrence is the clear 1-2 in Superflex.
Jets, better handcuff for Breece Hall. Michael Carter or Izzy Abanikanda?
It's Dalvin Cook when he signs there, of course. It's gonna it's gonna be a committee, right? I mean, if you have to pick one, you want to go with the veteran, right? I mean, we haven't seen Izzy A do anything on a NFL field, and he can end up being great. But look, Zonovan Knight came out of nowhere last year, so
Right.
I think just based on what we've seen so far, that there's no good handcuff. It's like truly a committee. But I would pick Carter.
Lions, Dynasty Target, Tight End Premium League. Sam Laporta or Jameson Williams?
Ooh, what a great question that is. I'm Sam Laporta. I just there's bad vibes all around. Now that one can come back and burn you, right? It's easy to see JMO end up being like wide receiver 12 on the year, but he's missing 6 games. Who knows what happened? He had that one catch he had last year went for a touchdown, that big bomb. So I understand both sides of it, but I'll take the unknown of the tight end in premium format.
Yeah, it's so tempting. I'm going Jameson Williams here, but
Yeah.
it's literally by a paper-thin margin. So, yes.
Totally. I wonder, Jameson Williams probably goes ahead of him. Oh, I know he does in all my startups. But when you add the bigger premiums, it's an interesting question.
Yeah, it gets really closer and closer by every premium. Yes, absolutely. Packers, Jaden Reed is the best wide receiver on this team.
Christian Watson. What is this? No. Christian Watson is it's a misprice that he's not considered in the same tier as Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. I see your eyebrows going up, but what more does the guy have to do? He broke out. By the time he became a starter, Christian Watson, in week 10 last year to week 18, 2 months, he was the wide receiver 9, right? The wide receiver 9. Fine, it's a small sample, but football is a small sample. You say, okay, Jordan Love's now the quarterback. The one game that Watson and Love played together, it's one game, but it was against the Eagles, and he had 4 for 100 and a touchdown. I'm not saying you have to, put him up there now, but you don't have to pay retail. You pay wholesale. Christian Watson, he broke out in the NFL. Jaden Reed is a second-round prospect. A year from now, could be different, but to me, this is a clear answer.
All right. I take your word for it. I'm still taking Jaden Reed, but it is what it is.
Trust me, I'm alone on Christian Watson Island, right? At any time I've had to make the case, people hang up the phone on me, so you're not alone.
I feel like they drew up these plays for him to go to take these slant routes where they pulled the safety in on a play action play, and they made these plays, and he's so fast he burned across the field. Yes, he's good for that, but I feel like Aaron Rodgers made the tailor-made offensive plays just for him, and that may happen in the future also. But
would you trade Christian Watson away for Jaden Reed straight up? Is that what you're telling me?
Just because of the values, I'd expect more, but it would be something that I'd make happen. I'd add stuff to Jaden Reed to get rid of Christian Watson.
Right.
Yes,
so someone says to you right now, I'll give you Marvin Mims, who's your other, you like Rice, right? He's your, who's the other? So if I said, if someone said, give me Christian Watson and you could take Rice and Reed, would you do it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then you're in.
Yes. All right, good. I'll try and make that trade in a couple leagues, but I don't have Christian Watson anywhere, so I can't get that. So
draft him just so you can trade him away in those leagues.
Panthers, Terrace Marshall will be the wide receiver to own in Carolina this year.
I mean, I want that to happen too, and it seems like, right, it's I would say that there's probably a chance that even though this is disgusting and ugly, that Adam Thielen is probably more of like a tight end that catches touchdowns. If I was getting favorable odds, I would bet that Thielen will outproduce Terrace Marshall, although I want Terrace Marshall to happen.
Yes, ditto. Patriots, why does everybody love Pierre Strong and hate Kevin Harris?
I don't know, right? Like, Kevin Harris just got clipped in a couple leagues. I'm picking him up, right? I mean, is there something about his profile, or maybe he was drafted a couple rounds?
In college, he got hurt, so that was but I mean, the guy had great college stats until he got hurt. But he's big. He runs like a 4.4 40. He's huge. He's a great running back. No, there's nothing wrong with him. It's just that people don't. His ADP, his draft, his his draft capital is not as good as Pierre Strong's.
Yeah, this is like the Alexander Madison versus Ty Chandler versus Dwayne McBride. Or it's like it could be the guy. Take the cheapest is old fantasy advice, but it's for a reason, right? So yeah, I'm with you. I hadn't really thought about that one, so I'm glad you brought it up. Like that's why I like doing podcasts, because you talk to people, get their thoughts. It's a little different. And let me get some Kevin Harris throw-ins. He was good in college.
He was very good in college.
Yeah, so good call there.
Raiders, is it Aiden O'Connell season?
I've been drafting him, right, because it's very shaky around Jimmy G. I mean, there's more of a chance with Aiden O'Connell, the 4th round pick of the Raiders. There's more of a chance he's Davis Mills as the upside rather than Brock Purdy. So if you're thinking like, hey, who's the next Brock Purdy? That doesn't really exist in most cases. So yeah, no, I'm rostering Aiden O'Connell in the 4th round of my rookie drafts. I would say a 25% chance he gets at least 2 starts this year.
He's a perfect example of a catch and release candidate. You get him as soon as he gets 1 start, you trade him away for whatever you can get to the highest bidder, and that's it.
Right. Or if you need a spot start running back that week, sometimes you don't have to get like a 3rd round pick for him, right? Because people are going to be dubious. But if you need, let's say Keontae Ingram's getting a clarified start that week, and Aiden O'Connell had a good week, and he's going to start again next week, that's a trade that would probably favor you. Away O'Connell, in Ingram.
Yeah. Rams, if Cooper Kupp sustains an early injury, what direction does this team go?
It's the tank is on, right? I mean, we saw what happened, that the offense fell apart last year. So it's a great question. It's more about what would happen to Cooper Kupp's fantasy value, right? I paid 2 firsts plus for him last year before the injury.
Oh, okay.
Before the injury, and then he got injured the next week. I mean, that happens. I paid 2 firsts and Rashad White. That's why I asked you about that earlier with Rashad White and Jerry. I mean, it's a big price, but Cooper Kupp was producing, and I was on a championship run. I overpaid, but I got my guy. So if it happens this year, what's the Rams? Forget it. The tank is on. I don't think Sean McVay comes back, but it's at that point you'll be lucky to get a single first for Cooper Kupp.
My saying in all my drafts or in any trades is reach for your guy.
Pretty much.
It is what it is.
I like how the cadence of that too. Reach for your guy. Right.
Ravens, who the hell does J.K. Dobbins think he is? Playing 4 games the last couple of years, pretty much, and then asking and holding out.
Real man demands to be the highest paid running back after not producing in the NFL. I respect it. Yeah, no, I mean, he saw Lamar got paid. He saw that it worked. I mean, obviously, you have to be self-aware of your circumstances in the market, but I hope it gets solved, because J.K. Dobbins is a player I've rostered in a lot of leagues when his value is depressed. Get well, J.K.
Saints, go by Kamara now, suspension or not?
I mean, Alvin Kamara has never been cheaper. I traded 2.5 for him in one league, which usually is not the case. You probably have to pay more than that,
right.
But make some offers. If you can get him for 2 seconds, if you have like pick 201 and 208, there's a chance you can get him on your roster.
Is it weird that I think Zach Charbonnet is going to be better than Ken Walker?
I mean, don't believe that, but we've seen that happen before with Chris Carson, right? Chris Carson was the 7th rounder undrafted guy that that overtook Rashad Penny. Like it happens. I mean, at least Walker's produced. I'm thinking in the worst case scenario for Walker, we're talking 50-50, but I hope not, because I'm biased. I have a lot of Ken Walker. I was taking him at pick 2 in rookie drafts last year, but it's football, man. Things happen, right? So it's not crazy thought. I just think like the odds are probably 30%, 25% that's the case.
Steelers. Well, this is just why did I trade away Jalen Warren to get Gerald Everett in a tight end premium league?
You shouldn't have done that.
I know.
Yeah, it happens. You traded away Gerald Everett, right?
I traded away Jalen Warren to get Gerald Everett.
Right. Well, it makes sense in a premium league, right? Jalen Warren, there's a lot of hype on him right now. If again, Najee Harris. I mean, it's okay though. Actually, let me say it again. You traded away Jalen Warren. I think that he's a little bit overhyped for a handcuff, because Najee Harris is a 3-down workhorse who was probably a little bit banged up last year. The path for Jalen Warren with predictable production, it relies on a Najee injury. So I think you're in a good spot.
I think Gerald Everett will be like a fringe tight end 1, early tight end, like short tight end 2 next year. But we talked about that big, humongous value of tight end, like that's you can almost get anybody to start. But Gerald Everett is on such a powerful passing team. I don't know. I can't pass him up.
Yep. Let's go out. Johnny, can I take a pee break?
Yes.
During a live stream? All right, 2 seconds. My bathroom's right here. 2 seconds.
Sure, go ahead. Take your time. So generally speaking, we he probably wasn't prepared for an hour and a half show, but these are what they do. I like doing the quick hits. And he told me, hey, there's no way I'm a no time clock. I take your time, and it's been an hour and 42 minutes now, but it's I got a great guest. I got some questions, I think, and we elaborate a little bit on the introductions, which I think is a good thing. So let's see. John's never seen he traded he doesn't like. Joe Castman. Joe does not trade. I should have
had the Gatorade bottle under the desk, but I decided to be a gentleman today.
Toronto Dave's loving this show. Now I'm going through some questions while you're my neighbor Joe Castleman across the street from me. This guy, he's in a couple of my leagues, and he just hates trading. Like, he does not trade at all. I could offer him Lamar Jackson and 3 firsts for anything like that, and he's like, no, not at all.
Yeah, but you know what it is about the it's okay to, I always say, to drive 55 on the highway. Just move over to the right. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to get crazy and make trades. That's totally cool. Just stay out of the way. Joe
said, does he say he likes Hurts over Josh Allen?
In Dynasty Fantasy Football, I do. I mean, I have them ranked back to back. I have Hurts at 2, Josh Allen at 3. But if Josh Allen's 3 years older at this point, I believe. It's pretty close. He's taken a lot of hits, and the team is better. John pointed out that the schedule was a little softer last year. But, yeah, no, I'm going to be higher on Hurts than most people in your Dynasty League.
All right, Texans, their pride of Brother Rice, which is the high school I went to. Xavier Valade leads the Texans in rushing this year.
No, it's Dameon Pierce. So even though he's a dangerous, a risky running back, but Dameon Pierce proved it in the NFL. He's tough as nails. Now, Valade, that's fine. You want to any running back that's on a roster, you want to put on your roster. I put him on a couple taxi squads, which you hate. But Devin Singletary is also he's like a good NFL running back, so he's going to be the backup. But yeah, Valade would be someone I want on my roster in case he gets a clarified start.
Yeah, he's my last guy, 25th round draft pick, 28th round draft pick.
Totally.
I throw on every roster. He played with my son in high school, so yeah.
So he's the real deal then?
He's the real deal. It's number 1 RB1. Yes. He's a good player, but it's amazing how when you go. I played against Simeon Rice in high school. I played against Geraldo Wynn. I played against Mike Allstott was my age. He played in Chicago, like the conference we played in. But Don McNabb was a backup quarterback from Mount Carmel when we played. We had really good football in Chicagoland area.
What position did you play?
I played left tackle for the Brother Rice High School.
Nice.
Yeah, I like I said, I went head to head versus Simeon Rice. It was he had a storied NFL career. I went head to head versus Ronaldo Wynn, who played for De La Salle and went to Notre Dame, and then went to the Jaguars for a long time.
So Rice trucked you? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Let's just say I don't want to watch tape anymore. I'm going to go on saying that I did okay, but I don't even want to see the tape on that one. So
that's great.
He was so good.
That's great.
Titans. Will Levis will win this division with lights out play.
Yeah, I mean, I think Will Levis is a good bet to get some fantasy football starts. I mean, this is the Jaguars division, and I don't think that's a secret to anybody. And now all of a sudden it's become a young quarterback, interesting division, right? When eventually Will Levis gets his starts, and with Lawrence and with Anthony Richardson, I like it. So will he? The Titans need more weapons before we declare them a division winner.
Vikings, is Ty Chandler just a special teamer behind Mr. President and Dwayne McBride?
Right? No. Ty Chandler is going to be the RB2 on this team. He has multiple years of NFL experience. That means a lot. It's like it means more than even as much as we like Dwayne McBride. He will. By the time that he elevates to starter, Alexander Mattison might not even be on the team anymore.
Outstanding. Washington football team. Antonio Gibson is going to win a lot of people a lot of money this year.
I mean, he's cheap in these startups, and if you have him on your list, I just don't trust it, right? Because we've been burnt so many times. How many times can you pick up the, stick your finger near the socket? So I think he put it this way: who's going to outproduce who in the first 2 months of the fantasy football season? Samaje Perine or Antonio Gibson, right? Like, that's a question. So win leagues know he'll have some valuable weeks. But the Washington football team, whatever they're called nowadays, the Commanders, they're rumored to be bringing in Kareem Hunt. That could really muck up things.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
All right. So there was supposed to be quick hits, but you said you don't have a time limit, so I took advantage of your awesome knowledge and the answers. So, so it worked out perfect. So real fast, we're gonna go through a couple trades and team evaluation. The trades that went down in my Mighty McGlynn home leagues, they're tight end, premium, super flex, 5-2 interceptions. Sam Howell and Joe Mixon for Kenny Pickett. Which side would you take?
Say it again. Sam Howell
and Joe Mixon for Kenny Pickett.
And this is super flex?
Yeah, super flex, tight end premium, PPR, all that stuff.
So the most important thing in Dynasty Fantasy Football for quarterbacks in Superflex format is getting the insulation. Like when you get down to this part of the quarterback rankings, can I safely project that my guy will be the starter for 2 seasons, 3 seasons, right? We don't get that with many players. Kenny Pickett is most likely, I mean, even if he has like a bad season, he's still probably going to be the starter for the next season. Sam Howell, there's a 35-40% chance doesn't make it through the full season. So even though Joe Mixon is on that side of it, quarterback contract insulation and their insulation for for projectable starts is still more important. That's a long way of saying I would take the Pickett side.
Yeah, Pickett at 107 from the Steelers is a long-term investment. So yeah, I get it. Daniel Jones, Jerry Jeudy, A.J. Dillon, and Cam Akers. All right, so Daniel Jones, Jerry Jeudy, A.J. Dillon, and Cam Akers, or Michael Pittman, the 104, and a 24 mid-first.
Now, the other side, I mean, some people like pick liquidity. I like veterans that produce. I like that side, especially in deeper leagues where all these guys are going to be starters.
Yeah. Christian Watson and the 102, or the 101 and a 24 second.
So it's Bijan Robinson and a 24 second, or Christian Watson and Anthony Richardson in Superflex. Is that
Pretty
kind
much.
of, yeah. I'm going to take the Anthony Richardson and Christian Watson. We already talked about Anthony Richardson. I mean, the upside is Lamar Jackson plus, Cam Newton plus, all that kind of stuff. And
That's
the
good.
floor is pretty high.
It's like, there's like a 50-50. Had the league went a little bit crazy on that trade when it went through. Like, why would you do that for? You're getting rid of Bijan, but this guy had 4 awesome running backs also. Didn't need Bijan, needed quarterbacks, so it worked out good for him. So.
I haven't seen it happen, but if someone took Anthony Richardson over Bijan in a rookie draft, I think that's fair.
I think I would just take Bijan and trade him away at that point in time for
Right.
established players. So, yeah, that's...
Yeah, I'm just saying, but like if they did that, what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It wouldn't, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's good. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, what an idiot. Like, yes, trade him away, figure it out. But sometimes, I mean, when you have the opportunity, a year from now, we could be saying, oh, Bijan finished as RB9. That's good. Oh my God, Anthony Richardson was QB4 after, he finished ahead of Josh Allen. How the hell? Oh my God, he ran in 9 touchdowns. Like, I could see the case for that.
Right. All right, Lamar Jackson, Terry McLaurin, and a second-round pick or Joe Burrow and Chase Brown.
I mean, I think you got Lamar and Joe Burrow. It's like that's a 50-50, so take the Lamar Jackson side.
Yeah, I'm thinking Terry McLaurin versus Chase Brown, and Terry McLaurin is second for Chase Brown pretty much. Yeah, it's 100%.
Chase Brown might be game day inactive.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Travion Williams and Chris Evans are the ones that are getting a little off-season buzz as far as not for starters, but for backup roles.
They're all getting buzzed just because of the fact that Joe Mixon's uncertainty, possibly, so that's, it is what it is.
I haven't heard like, oh my God, Chase Brown crushed it in OTAs today. I haven't heard that.
So here's a trade that was offered me this morning, and I'm contemplating taking it or not because of the fact that I have Trevor Lawrence already, and my second quarterback is Daniel Jones. So it's super flex that we went over all the Patrick Mahomes and Sky Moore, or Daniel Jones, Mark Andrews, DJ Moore, a 24 first and a 24 second.
It's a interesting offer, but the Patrick Mahomes side, when you have Patrick Mahomes, that you're just set. That you can get through with bad quarterbacks and figure it out. So it's big. It's a big trade, but I'm going to take the Patrick Mahomes side.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth, sending, like getting rid of this guy and putting that guy, trying to ask for a little bit more, but it's like kind of like I'm going to have to just bite the bullet there and go with Mahomes. Then I could just set.
Which side do you have? Which set of players do you have right now?
I have Daniel Jones, Mark Andrews, DJ Moore, and a 24 and all those picks. So
it's fair, but it would not get me to release Mahomes.
Yeah, the other side of the spectrum is I have T.J. Hockenson again. My receiving core is a little bit short, but I can I think receivers are the easiest thing to replace. And 24 first, if I get Mahomes, hopefully I'll be above the toilet bowl situation where I won't have to worry about like because I'm not tanking, so I don't care about my first round pick. If I have Mahomes and Sunshine as my quarterbacks, I'm probably not going to have a lottery pick no matter what, just because of the quarterback talent I have on my team. So
cool.
All right, so that's it for those. Now we're going to do a team evaluation real fast. It's a couple minutes. I appreciate your time so much.
No problem. So, you're like I said, I enjoy interacting with you on Twitter, and you'll get a bill from my time. It's no big deal.
All right, 30 cents an hour. Perfect. I got it.
Prison rates right there.
So every week we evaluate a team that's sent in by a Mighty McGlynn home league owner to debate if it's a simple remodel or a full-scale rebuild. What direction is this? what's this team's biggest needs, who's your kind of guys you want to keep, trade and cut kind of thing. This is 25-man rosters right now, so it's going to be pretty much keep everybody. But who would you trade to improve this team, and who would you send away to do it? This team is like dead center of the league right now. It's post-startup. He punted on quarterback to start his team with powerful wide receivers in other positions. He said that he drafted Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes late in other leagues he's in, and it hit big, the pass on quarterback strategy. He's hoping that happens again. So that worked for him before. So he punted on quarterback this year. And here's the team that we have here. Trey Lance is his his starting quarterback. He's got Gibbs and Pollard, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, Dallas Goedert, Tyler Algier, Damian Harris, and Desmond Ritter is the second quarterback. So his quarterbacks are Trey Lance, who may not even start, and Desmond Ritter is number 2, or arguably is number 1 at this point in time. His backups are Tyler Heineke, Carson Wentz, and Mike White and Davis Mills, which are pretty much, that's nothing to talk about there either. Then he's got Jeff Wilson, Michael Carter, Devin Achane, Juju Smith-Schuster, Zay Jones, MVS, Peoples-Jones, Rashad Bateman, Quentin Johnson, Dawson Knox, and Isaiah Likely is the rest of his team. So he's middle of the road here, nothing special. His receivers really, really, really kind of make this team here. It's to get Justin Jefferson. Garrett Wilson I've been trying to get Garrett Wilson everywhere. It just doesn't happen. Guys who own him will not give him up. So it is what it is. But how do you feel about this roster? Where it's at right now? What do you think this guy could do?
Yeah. This is not how I play Superflex, and I have the completely different philosophy where I'm not only trying to get one elite quarterback, I'm trying to trade up for a second elite quarterback in the top 8. But that said, I understand, and this player said that Chris Joel said he's had luck doing this, and I'm looking down the roster, like someone like we talk about how much that we like the Miami Dolphins offense, and that Tua is one hit away from missing half the season. Hey, Mike White is on his roster. That could end up being like QB 13, QB 8 if he gets some starts. So right there, he can make up a little bit of the ground. You outline the strength of the receiver core. We certainly like the running backs. The flexes are a little weak, but in a league this deep, of course, you're going to have a little bit weaker flexes. So here's the problem with the roster, John. I think that you and I will be in agreement is try to go get a quarterback in Superflex Dynasty. You can't, right? The best available guys to you for reasonable rates, for market rates, are like the Ryan Tannehill types, the distressed guys. Maybe Kenny Pickett if you're lucky, probably not. Baker Mayfield, if he's named the starter, he's quote gettable, but do you really want him? So there's a lot of risk here, and you could spend years. I know guys that have like sick teams like this or are missing quarterbacks, and then they like get into the playoffs, and then it just doesn't work out. So I would, if you want specific recommendations, it sounds like this player is very comfortable with the quarterbacks he has, but I would figure out a way to get like the Matt Staffords of the world, right? Guys that could be top 12 quarterbacks, but are treated outside the 20, ones that are gettable. So, in season, let's say that Matt Stafford has a down week. Like the first week he passes for 180 yards and 1 touchdown with a pick. And all of a sudden the next week, Jeff Wilson gets a clarified start. Maybe add Jeff Wilson to Desmond Ritter to get to the Stafford level. So this player sounds like he's comfortable with it. I personally would not be. I would want something in there, a quarterback, because with Trey Lance, we already talked about, he might not even get a start, John. And if that happens, I mean, if Trey Lance starts and has the upside, sure. But this is, you could spend years chasing quarterback. I love the roster. I love the risk he took. But my first move would be try to get at least one quarterback where I'm confident has a nice base of points. And that's someone like a Stafford, or Ryan Tannehill's a little distressed at this point. But, hey, try to get Brock Purdy on this team.
Yeah, he tried trading me his Michael Carter for my Baker Mayfield, and I'm like, no,
nope.
Quarterbacks are just too valuable in a super flex. And I think when I start, like I said before, I have teams where I have Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Trevor Lawrence as my 3 quarterbacks. And now I never have to worry about bye weeks, injuries, anything. For 15 years, I don't have to worry about a quarterback position pretty much. So I never underestimate the quarterback position in a super flex.
Even Aaron Rodgers, but the Aaron Rodgers owner is not going to want to trade him because that's his QB too, right? It's just That's the problem. Like I have guys in startups that I'm in that get these super rosters, and then they're starting Sam Howell and Desmond Ritter. You might not have either of these guys. They might be, he has Tyler Heineke on this roster, so that is kind of the backup, the handcuff to Desmond Ritter. But yeah, there's nothing worse in Superflex Dynasty than trying to chase quarterback, because you always have to overpay, or you have to get, basically a non-desirable asset. So see if you can work your way up the QB ladder with a Matt Stafford type, with an Aaron Rodgers type, and go from there, or just gamble. You can, if things go wrong, you might be in position to get one of the 2 quarterbacks that are coming out next year.
Yeah, I'll take your 2 top receivers for my third for Daniel Jones if you want to do that.
It doesn't work. Yeah, no, that's the thing. You don't want to give away the equity you built as a wide receiver to get. It's what, this is how you could attack it. Like last year when Russell Wilson had his down year, right? If Kyler Murray is a good target. Because right now, when he's not playing for a couple weeks, you're gonna the fantasy managers be like, this guy's collecting zeros. So you might be able to get him for your 24 first plus a player that's doing well. So the lesson in Dynasty Superflex is go after the quarterbacks that nobody wants, that you already know are elite guys.
Yeah. I'm trading away like the Tyler Algiers and Damian Harris's, especially the running backs right now. If I'm in this situation, I'm trading away, Jeff Wilson, Michael Carter. I'm trading away, especially someone like A-Chain. I think he's overrated. Juju is another player that they's got knee situations that are still lingering from last year.
But what are you getting for these guys? Offense. What are you getting?
Well, a bunch of third round picks. Possibly to move up to package 2/3 and somebody else for a second, maybe, or package 2/3 for a low second and keep moving up the board kind of thing. And then trade a second and a third to move up in the second round a little bit further, a little bit more, because like Zay Jones, what I trade Zay Jones for a 3rd round pick, especially somebody who has like Trevor Lawrence right now. I would trade like a 4th round pick for Zay Jones if I own Trevor Lawrence kind of thing, just for, a 4th round pick. What else am I getting for a 4th round pick? Especially if I'm a win right now. MVS, he's got 85% on the field. He's on the field 85% of the time. So if somebody at the Mahomes owner would probably take a stab at a guy like MVS, who's more of a best ball player, but he could have some big games. Peoples-Jones, he's a kind of a hit right now, but I have a feeling that this is his last year on the Browns. So, I don't know. I'm getting rid of a lot of these guys. I'd probably keep the Quentin Johnsons and get rid of Dawson Knox, get rid of Isaiah Likely. Those guys are, I like he's going to be a great handcuff, but who knows what's going to happen in 3 years if Andrews doesn't get hurt. You just kept Likely for 3 years for no reason. So,
yeah, the problem is all the players that you're naming, they don't really have a lot of trade value, right? You're always going to have to take less than you're trading away. So, all the players that you like have at least a game of upside in them. So if you like Isaiah Likely, let's say Andrews gets hurt, okay, now you can go get your pick, right? Or if Dawson Knox has a 2-touchdown game early in the season, maybe there's an opportunity there. Once quarterback is solved on your team, all the other problems are easy to fill. It's always easier to get like older guys to fill in at wide receiver. So, and listen, this guy did a great job drafting implementing the specific strategy. But yes, at some point you might have to cash in those great picks you made in order to solve quarterback. Once quarterback solved, you can always get a Mike Evans or a Keenan Allen or a Tyler Lockett for a reasonable rate to fill into those slots.
So this guy during the draft, he'd sit there and it would be his turn. He'd waste 4.5 minutes. It's supposed to be 3 minutes per pick or a minute and a half per pick. He'd go up there, he'd steal everybody's nachos, go plate to plate, take forever to draft his pick. And I'm like, no, I told him I'd bust his balls around how much time he took. So, but no, he's a great player. He's in a bunch of leagues. He's a great teammate, great league mate. So I've been in leagues with him before. He's finally in my dynasty league, so it worked out great. Yeah,
and I'd like for him to let us know how he does here, or you can let me know how he does, because I respect the strat. They're trying different things. I mean, punting. Now let's talk about the other way. If Desmond Ridder all of a sudden and they unleash the weapons a little bit, Desmond Ridder is scoring like 18 to 21 fantasy points a game. Trey Lance gets the starting nod and becomes Shanahan's next RG3. We're going to be sitting here being like, oh my God, I wish I had this team. So there is upside there.
Yes.
It just doesn't seem like it right now that the quarterback is risky. So and then he's got those receivers and the running back. So though we're kind of like dubious about it, I mean, there's a chance that we're looking real foolish in about 6 months.
Absolutely. So on that, thank you very much for your time. Like I try to keep these to about an hour sometimes, but they've gone 4.5 hours with Peter Howard and guys who talk a lot. So you're not the longest guy by far, but
good. I'm glad I'm not. Yeah, 4.5 is rough, but I enjoy talking to you, John. Anytime, man. We'll do it again during the season, and not that I need to tell you this, but I want you to keep going and keep grinding because I love what you're doing. I think that you're providing unique information and perspective in the fantasy space, specifically the dynasty space, and you are helping grow the game of dynasty. Like sometimes we don't think like we are doing it, but every podcast you do, every league you start helps grow this game. You're an important voice, and I know you're going to be very successful as far as you want to take this.
Well, thank you very much, and it's because of the fact that I come here and enjoy Twitter because I listen to people like you and see your content and your creation that
Good
keeps
stuff.
me going also. So thank you very much. It's a two-way street here, definitely. So thank you very much. So on the way out, like one more time, you want to tell everybody where they can find you at all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, at Alan Seslowsky. It's on the screen, or you're listening to this and it's in the background. I'm sure John will put all the video, the Twitter links in the video description. So just follow me at Alan Seslowsky on Twitter on all social media, and then follow at RotoWire. RotoWire is a great place to get fantasy news, updates. We put out all that kind of stuff. And right now, for your listeners, if they want to try RotoWire Premium, and again, RotoWire's been around since 1997, man. I mean, it's one of the pillars, the building blocks of the fantasy community. We're going to give RotoWire away for 2 days for free for everyone, okay? All you need to do is just go to rotowire.com/try, T-R-Y, and then just put in your email, and the whole paywall unlocks, all our rankings, all our premium, everything. Just look around. And then after 2 days, it just lapses. Like, there's nothing to cancel. There's nothing worse than when you have to, like, put a credit card in and then go cancel. We don't take your credit card. All you do is you go to rotowire.com/try, put in your email, and the paywall unlocks. You have it for 2 days. Download some cheat sheets. Download some rankings. Go look around. We're confident you're going to like it, so you'll subscribe. But if you don't, no big deal. Just you go check it out for 2 days. There's nothing to cancel. That's the best part about it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I am John McGlynn. You could find me on the Twitter machine at JohnMcGlynn75. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you on today, and I enjoyed every minute of your 2 hours of of your service here. I'll call that, for having to deal with me for 2 hours. But thank you so much. This is a commissioner evaluation show. I do this because I love fantasy football. I love doing this kind of stuff, and I hope it's people learn from these situations that arise on my podcast. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in today, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much, Adam Seslowsky. All right, I'll talk to you later, everybody. Have a good week. Have a great fantasy football season, and I'll see you throughout the offseason on this show. Thank you very much.
John McGlynn.
Turn that up, baby. Turn that up. Let me hear that.